All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will go ahead and get started for the night. So I'll go ahead and call this Design Review Board meeting to session. This is a regular Design Review Board meeting of the City of Milton. I'm Ken Warlick. This is a 7-member board appointed by the City of Milton Mayor and City Council, created for the purpose of holding public hearings and making recommendations. The Design Review Board reviews plans and makes recommendations to the Community Development Director for the developments, except for single-family residential, in the form-based code and overlay districts. In addition, the Design Review Board approves or denies demolition requests and makes recommendations to the Board of Zoning of Appeals for variances. So at this time, I'd like to ask everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, great, thank you. So next I'm going to move on to an introduction of our staff and our board members.
Jackie Jennings.
Rima Abdel Fattah.
Samia Coker, Cheltenham Walk.
Celeste Jackson, Saddle Springs Drive.
Casey Robinson, Parkbrook Trace.
Ken Warlick, Hipworth Road.
Danielle Gagne, Morning Mountain Way.
David Jackson, Bethany Way.
And Danella, Haybridge Lane.
All right, great. So moving on, we're going to, I would like to call for a motion for approval or an amendment to tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval from Ms. Gagne and a second from Ms. Dianella. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Okay. So next we're going to call for an approval of the meeting minutes from last month, from August 6th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve August 6 minutes.
I'll second.
All right, great. We have a motion for approval from Mr. Jackson and a second from Ms. Jackson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. All right, moving on. So tonight's going to be 5A, demolition of structures. Jackie, we're going to kind of do all these. We'll do separate ones, obviously, on the vote, but we'll go ahead and call each one of these.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to have one presentation for all this, but later when you're ready to vote, I ask that to make a motion for each individual item.
Okay. So 5A, B, C, and D, 3475, 3485, 3495, and 2560 Bethany Bend.
I'm sorry, just 3495, all three.
ABC.
Just A, B, C, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Okay. All right, got it. So A, B, and C.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. So just to give you the subject sites again, just kind of summarize it, we're looking at 3 properties, 3475 Bethany Bend Road, 3485 Bethany Bend Road, and 3495 Bethany Bend Road. So east to this subject site is Forsyth County. To give you a general information, our applicant is Mr. Ihsan Hashem. He's requesting to demolish existing structures on the 3 adjacent lots. The total size for those 3 lots is 3.133 acres. It is currently zone R5A for single-family dwelling within the overlay district of State Route 9. And the existing use, of course, is residential. So just to give you a background for these properties, there was a rezoning case to rezone all 3 properties from AG1, which is agricultural, and to R5A, single-family dwelling, to develop no more than 13 single-family homes. So, just like our process with rezoning use permit, it has to go through different public meetings, including the board, the Design Review Board. So on December 5th, DRB reviewed the rezoning of these properties under courtesy review, and you guys have provided some recommendations at that time. And then ultimately on February 5, 2024, the city mayor and council approved the rezoning. So here they are now, they're coming in to go ahead, demolish all of the structures on 3 lots. So the first one here is 3475 Bethany Bend Road. You see here is the site map or the site plan, and the request is to demolish the 1-story wood frame residence, shed, a wood building, asphalt driveway, and a concrete driveway. So that property is bordered on this red line that shows all the existing structures. And the next slide here will just show you the photos for 3475. Next request is 3485 Bethany Bend Road. The request is to demolish a 1-story wood frame residence, shed, well house, concrete sidewalk, and gravel driveway. And let's take a look at the photos. I only have 2 photos for this outside because I believe there is still someone that lives here. So I didn't want to go in the property without any permission. Then the next and last request is the 3495 Bethany Bend Road. The request is to demolish a 1-story wood frame residence, block building, shed, gravel pads, and concrete driveway. Here are the photos. So again, in reviewing this demolition, we'll look at the criteria for approving a demo permit, and it outlines all 8 criteria. And with the staff analysis, none of these structures on the 3 lots is listed on the Georgia Natural Resources, GIS. The structure have no historic, scenic, or architectural significance. Therefore, staff recommends approval of all 3 plans for all 3 requests with the following comments. This, which is pretty standard, submit a complete demo permit application. If there's a septic or water well, it must be demolished or removed from the site according to Fulton County's procedure. Of course, they do this show the limits of disturbance that includes the silt fence and 3 safe fence, and no trees to be removed without obtaining the approval of the city. And then lastly, they have to level and grass the areas that were disturbed. Any question for staff? And we also have the applicant here.
Oh, okay. If the applicant would like to come forward, thank you so much, Jackie.
Hello, Ethan with Arkan Homes, 3275 North Point Parkway, Alpharetta, Georgia. I really have nothing to add, but
Okay.
the designs were already approved by, like the architectural designs were approved by this board, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Did you say that it's 13 single-family homes going in on this land?
Yes.
Okay. Not changing the use.
No, that's already been done, yeah. Mhm.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, seeing no questions, I'll open up for public comment.
We have none.
None? Okay, then I will close public comment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, and any discussion from the board? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve demolition of 3475 Bethany Bend.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve demolition for 3475 Bethany Bend for Mr. Jackson, and a second for Ms. Gagney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. For 3485 Bethany Bend, I'll make a motion to approve the demolition for this one.
I'll second.
So we have a motion for Mr. Warlick, a second for Mr. Robinson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. And for 3495 Bethany Bend, can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the demolition of 3495 Bethany Bend.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion for Ms. Jackson, a second for Ms. Coker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, moving on. Actually, don't go far. 5D, 2560 Bethany Bend.
Good evening, board. Okay, so the next demolition review is for 2560 Bethany Bend. So the applicant is again Mr. Isan Hashem, and the request is to demolish structures to make way for the subdivision development. It's 2.015 acres, zoned AG1. It's in the rural Milton overlay district in the Bethany character area, and its existing use currently is residential. This is the aerial view. You can see, let's see, North Park to the east. Here's the site plan submitted to the Community Development Department from the applicant. And we have a zoom in that shows the structures to be demolished. And here are some photos of the structures.
I love it.
So some supplemental information. None of the structures are listed in the Georgia Historic Resources GIS or Milton's Historic Survey list. The property is not located within a 100-year flood hazard area zone, and the existing septic tanks for this site will be demolished in place or removed from the site as part of the demolition activities. This is the general criteria for approving a demolition permit. So staff recommendations are approval of the demolition permit per the site plan with the following comments: complete the demo permit application, show tree-safe fence and silt fence. If not used, water well and or septic must be capped properly, and then any disturbed or exposed soil must be leveled and permanently grassed. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for staff? No? Okay.
Applicant is here if you guys wanted me to.
Mr. Hashem, do you have anything to add to that or? No? Okay. All right. Any questions for the applicant?
Just out of curiosity, you said there's going to be a subdivision going in there?
No, we're just subdividing it into 2 lots.
Oh, okay.
1 acre each.
Okay.
One house on each lot.
1 house on each lot, yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comment?
We have none.
None? Okay. I'll close public comment. And any discussion from the board? Seeing none, I will call for a motion.
I will very enthusiastically make a motion to for the demolition of 2560 Bethany Bend.
I'll second.
All right, so we have an approval of the motion for demolition from Ms. Gagney and a second from Mr. Jackson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Gonna be busy, good luck.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We have some more demolitions. 5E, which is 1255 Birmingham Road.
So next demolition, 1255 Birmingham Road. Some general information. 1255 Birmingham Road, that's where it's located. Applicant is Mr. Scott Reese. It's a total of 22.212 acres, zoned AG1 in the rural Milton overlay. The character area is Birmingham. It's currently residential, and the structures on the property were built approximately between 1986 and 1987. So the request is to demolish the existing guest house and stables. So here is an aerial view. You can see Freemanville to the east. And I think Birmingham Crossroads to the west, yes. Site plan submitted to the Community Development Department. And here's the zoom in that shows the 3 structures. So there's 2 stables and 1 guest house. So here are photos of the guest house. Here are the stables. So some supplemental information is that on June 1st, 2021, the DRB approved the demolition plan to demolish the primary house, pool, and tennis court located at the southwest portion of the property. And then on June 15th, 2021, BZA approved a variance. And those variances were to allow an existing guest house to be located in front of the primary structure, to allow the existing guest house to exceed the 1,500 square feet limit, and to allow the existing accessory structures housing animals to be located less than 100 feet from the property line. So after all of that, the demolition permit was issued on September 6th of 2021 for the main house. And the site is not located in a flood hazard area. General criteria for approving the demolition permit, which you're all familiar with. So the recommendations by staff are that this property is not listed in the Georgia History Resources Survey or Milton's Historic Survey list. We recommend approval of the demolition per the site plan with the following comments: complete the demo permit application, show the tree-safe fence and silt fence. If not used, water well and/or septic must be capped properly, and then any disturbed and exposed soil must be leveled and permanently grassed. Any questions for staff?
So they got a variance and now they're demolishing it
Yes.
to rebuild?
The plans are, the applicant will answer what the future plans are for demolishing the structures afterwards.
I do have one question though, is if these structures are demolished, does the variances that were approved stay with the property? Or by demoing these structures, does that variance go away? The approval of those variances?
Because the variance is specific for the stables and the guest house, that will go away.
Okay.
Once demolished.
Okay, so if they wanted to come back and build a stable and a guest house in front
Oh,
of the
if the
house
same
again,
property, I have to check on that if it's the same property owner.
I'm just curious
Yeah.
for future reference.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for staff? No? All right, thank you. Mr. Reese, great to see you again.
Of course, of course. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese from Reese & Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia 30004. Here tonight representing Tucker Mathis's family and his application to remove the structures that were presented before you. Brief history of the property. It existed from about the mid-1980s until the mid to late 1990s. His Four Cedars Horse Farm, a commercial equestrian business that stabled horses there. So it went into foreclosure. A few years later, company Dash Inc. bought. We did the survey, demolition for them, and the variance approval. Something happened in their life. So the Mathis family purchased the property some 2 years ago. Different plans, different ideals. So the structures that are there were especially built for a commercial horse farm. So they may have horses. They're not going to board other people's horses as a business. They don't need 18 stables. They need a barn that's designed for them with a few stables, a place to park the tractor, that sort of thing. The guest house is a former modular building that was a commercial office space for construction. Those are glorified mobile homes. They're really not seeking to keep that structure there either. So going forward, they will construct a new residence there in the rear and may possibly build some accessory structures, but these particular structures do not meet their goals for the property. Your question about the variances, I would have to check the record, but 99.9% of the time, they are site plan specific, citing those existing structures and with a date. Typically, they're referencing our plat or our site plan. So that would be a legal question to be answered. Don't really want to play a lawyer today, but that could be answered. But I'm 99.9% sure that in that approval, it was specified by the chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals that it was as shown on the site plan dated such and such by Brumlow Reese and Associates. So that's the story. It's a little convoluted. 3 different owners in a pretty short period of time. The foreclosure didn't do the house or the buildings any favors by being abandoned for that period of time. And they're just not what he wants. There's no reason to spend money on bringing them up to par when they're not what he needs. I'll be glad to answer or try to answer any questions that don't put me in jurisprudence. So,
Any questions? No? All right.
Thank
Thank you. Any public comment?
We have none.
We have none. Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public comment. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, I will call for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the demolition of 1255 Birmingham Road.
I will second.
All right. We have a motion for approval from Ms. Danella and a second from Ms. Gagney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you, sir. See you next month,
See you
Mr.
next
Reese. All right, moving on. Demolition of structures, 5F3390 Sonata Lane. This is an administrative application, so
Yes. So
Rima,
this
if you'll
is-
fill us in on this one, please.
Okay, so this is the demolition review for 3390 Sonata Lane. So this demolition approval is due to fire damage and life safety issues. So we've granted it an administrative approval. And per our chief building official, Mr. Gary Mullenix, he's written up a letter of determination, which is dated August 19th of 2024. And I'm just going to read it for records purposes. This document constitutes the official determination of the building official of the city of Milton for compliance of the building structure at 3390 Sonata Lane. This structure is fire damaged and upon inspection by this office is deemed unsafe. The structure is further deemed substantially damaged and must be mitigated by demolition to the extent necessary to provide for the public safety and to further enable adjacent property owners to proceed with necessary repairs inhibited within the fall zone of this unstable structure. The owner of this property is hereby directed to obtain the required permitting to proceed with the demolition and rebuild scope and immediately provide for safe site conditions, including fence protection around the structure per IBC Chapter 33 to limit access. So here are some photos of the structure. So staff recommends approval of the demolition permit and requests that the applicant submit a demolition permit application. Any questions?
No?
For staff?
Okay. So we would call the applicant, please come, if they have
Yeah.
anything
So
to add,
because
or?
this is an administrative
Okay.
request and we represent the applicant,
Okay.
obviously, so we don't have them here.
Okay. Public comment?
We have none.
None. I'll close public comment. Discussion? Seems pretty clear cut to me. All right, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the demolition of 3390 Sonata Lane.
I'll second.
We have a motion for approval for Mr. Jackson and a second for Mr. Robinson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. All righty. Okay, so we're finished up with the demolition of structures. We're going to move on to courtesy reviews. So we have 6A, the Montessori School, 3499 and 3501 Bethany Bend Road.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Our presentation is for this Milton Montessori School. This is an expansion to the building, and we're going to do this under courtesy review. So the applicant is Mr. Biju Epen, and he's requesting a courtesy review of Montessori School expansion building plan located at 3499 and 3501 Bethany Bend Road. The total size of both tracts or parcel is approximately 5 acres, and this is located within the zoning district of OI, or Office Institutional, within the State Route 9 Overlay District. So currently, the existing use now for this property is private school. So next slide, here is the aerial view of the subject site, bordered in red. East of the subject site is Forsyth County, and just south of that subject site is the existing Montessori school. So just a little bit of a background. Around May of this year, the applicant submitted a rezoning and use permit with 3-part concurrent variance application. And let me just go over the intent again. And this is to rezone from TR, townhouse residential, with the revocation of a senior living use permit, to an OI, or Office Institutional, with a private school use permit of 24,000 square feet with a total of 160 students and associated activity or outdoor areas with 3 concurrent variances. So it outlines all the 3 concurrent variances. So as you remember, it went to DRB just a few months ago for a courtesy review. And ultimately, council last week on Wednesday, they approved the rezoning, the use permit, and Part 1 and Part 2 concurrent variances. So now the new zoning district is from TR. It's now an OI, or Office Institutional, and the new use from that senior living, now it's a private school. And tonight, the applicant is moving forward to the next step of this whole process, which is getting a courtesy review from Design Review Board of the expansion of the building. So again, let's look at this site plan. As mentioned earlier, during the aerial view, you see Forsyth County to the east of that subject site and the existing school to the south. The 2 lots are highlighted in that star, 3501 Bethany Bend and 3499 Bethany Bend. So this is a 2-phase construction, beginning with phase 1, which is bordered in red, which is the subject of our review tonight. This is a 12,000 square feet building total. 2-story building, and each of the story has 6,000 square feet total. Similarly, the same size specification will be done for phase 2, but this will be constructed at a later date. And just to show you another perspective, 3D modeling, here's how the phase 1 and phase 2, what it's going to look like. So half of this building will be phase 1, which will be constructed hopefully this year. And the goal of the applicant is to make it ready for the next school year, which is in August. So they're trying to build this phase 1, and then phase 2 at a later date. There is a reason for why they do this, and I'll have the applicant explain that. But what you're looking here is the south and east elevations, as well as the pavilion behind. So as you go north to Bethany Bend, this is what commuters will see. So let's talk about the elevation. You'll see a compass that shows north. So that gives you perspective, the north, the south, east, and west. So you're looking at the south elevation. This renderings faces the existing structure, the existing Montessori school. This is what it's going to look like. We call it the south elevation or the front elevation. Look at the east elevation. This is the facade that you'll see if you're standing on Bethany Bend. This is what you see. So that is the east elevation or right elevation. This is another perspective in 3D modeling that represents the south and east elevations. North elevation or the back elevation. This is the facade that faces the parking and the outdoor activity areas, including that pavilion that you see earlier. Here's what it looks like in 3D model. And just a note, this is the part where they will connect the phase 2 building. And I'll explain further in the next succeeding slides. And this is the west elevation or left elevation. This is the part that faces the undisturbed buffer area and also the neighborhood. So for staff analysis, the applicable code applied for this review is State Route 9 Overlay District, Building Materials and Design, which is found in the Unified Development Code Section 6.2.8, subsections A to Z. So we reviewed all the subsections just to make sure if they conform with what the code states for that district. And I know you have in your staff reports very lengthy table of all the codes from A to Z. But for the next slide, I just want to give the key takeaways, beginning with the building height. So this is a 2-story building with a height of 21 feet from the average finished grade to the bottom of the roof eave as indicated in the drawing. So basement height and roof height are not included in calculating the building height. And the code says that the maximum height for this building is 30 feet. So with the height, they conform with the code. As far as the building materials and colors, we have the vertical wood siding, brick veneer for parts of the wall, especially most of it is in the first level, and then brick veneer for water table. So in summary, there are 2 proposed major building materials. So those are brick veneer and vertical siding. The code says 3 is the limit. As far as colors, they've included 3 different colors for the major building materials: red brick for water table, off-white brick for first level, and a brown for vertical siding for second level. So this proposed colors match the permitted color outline in the code. And adding to the building materials is the asphalt shingle roof, and then aluminum storefront system with tinted glass for windows and doors. So these are the predominant materials for this building. And it does not include the accessories, or not accessory, but the other elements of the buildings, such as beams, like the facade offsets, brackets, canopy, and beams. And other architectural elements here, the principal entry area is articulated and expressed in a greater architectural detail as shown on the picture to the right. It shows you have a canopy, a nice door with transom, side lights. So you will see that that's, distinguished from the other sides of the building, that this is the main entrance. All sides of the building show architectural elements and project a consistent architectural theme. So there's no changes on as far as colors and materials. Next, all windows and doors are tinted glass with less than 50% transmittance and have a visible reflectance factor of 10 or less. Window size and placements are proportional. Just looking at the image to the right again, it doesn't show any strange sizing or, yeah, measurements of the window. And the exterior finishes for the proposed pavilion are consistent with the principal structure. And we'll see an image of that towards the end. So for design review board's review, I also wanted you to look at what the existing school looked like and see if it complements with the proposal. And we can go back later to these pictures, just let me know. Okay. So let's look at the before and after, because it's important that we kind of understand how do we connect phase 1 building to phase 2 buildings and what does it look like ultimately once all of this buildings are combined. So here we're looking at just a phase 1 building, east elevation. This is the elevation that faces Bethany Bend. Once the second phase is complete, this is what you look like. This is what it looks like. So I don't know if you can see the cursor. This is phase 1 and this is phase 2. Next, let's look at the north elevation. This is the elevation that faces the parking space or lot and the activity area, including the pavilion. Once phase 2 is complete, so all of this wall will be removed, the roof, and then attach this building, and this is what it's gonna look like. It looks like it mirrors the renderings or the elevation to the south. Okay. So this is the elevation that faces the buffer, undisturbed buffer area. And once we combine, this is what it's going to look like. So to the right, this is phase 1, and to the left is phase 2. No changes to the south elevation because, they built it exactly, the same length. So there's no alteration. So the only areas or elevation that will be affected is the north, east, and west elevation. So we look at this preliminarily, but as staff reviewed the standards, they adequately meet all the standards outlined in the code. If I'm missing something, the board can add that as a feedback. But for now, staff requests the following information to be included in the final review. Add an exterior door to the enclosed staircase area that faces Bethany Bend. Confirm the roof pitch. Improve landscaping in the north elevation, which is the back of the building. The plan shows some plants above concrete. So we would like to see, like soil and like a nice landscaping. And then provide a separate drawing for the pavilion and show details about how to build that. In addition, staff also requests that the applicant submit a signage plan during the permitting application because they are permitted separately and are not typically included in the building permit and the LDP permit processes. So just a note, we are only looking at the building. They will come back later for the final, as well as we're also going to review the LDP plan for that site. And then let me just go back to this photo that shows you the pavilion at the back. So any questions for staff? The applicant is here, and I believe the contractor is also here to answer some of the technical questions. And I'm glad Mr. Bob Buscemi is also here, who's an architect that can probably help us with explaining some of the technicalities that involve in this project.
Any questions for staff?
I know, where do we begin?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Celeste, you have a
It's
question?
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So the exterior door that staff is recommending,
So
can you show me where that is?
So because that is a staircase, And originally, it's going to be an exposed staircase, so we thought, we can't do that. You know, we're very strict about not exposing staircase, so we asked them to enclose that. And so this is the enclosure. However, I think it's just an oversight that the architect probably forgot. Let me see if I can find a better angle. Thought I saw it earlier. Oh, here. So see this section? This right here. So how do you access the door? Because, you know, from the outside. So we asked them to put a door here. So, you know, for exit or for entrance purposes, people have a way to go out and into the building. So this door will face Bethany Bend. So we want a nice door for that one, not just, you know, like a metal. I don't think a metal door would look good.
Does it make sense to face it towards the road versus on the back side of that column?
Well, I look at their floor plan because if we go towards the back entrance, the door that leads to the second floor will be the classroom, that's not what they want. They want it to go to the, I think is it the corridor? I think that's where. So with this existing position, once you get up, it leads you to the corridor hallway instead of the classroom.
Jackie, quick question, but this is the side where they will be adding phase 2?
Yes, phase 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So they will remove all of this, and then
Okay.
add phase 2.
So that door is somewhat temporary until,
Somewhat temporary. And they could repurpose it. I don't know where they're going to put that, but I'll leave that to the applicant.
And on that rendering, to the right of the stairwell on the exterior, is that a door?
Which one?
Just-
This one?
yes. Is that an entrance?
That looks like a window to me. when
It's a
I look at
window? Okay.
The floor plan.
But there is a door on the, let's see, what is that, east elevation? There's like a
So
step up.
This east elevation, the one that faces
Oh,
Bethany,
that's a
there's no
planner.
door.
That's a
It's all
planner.
windows.
No door.
I
Yeah,
thought
so
the same
here's a
thing.
better view of that. It's all windows.
What's the last?
So the door should go here.
Okay.
You look at.
So the UDC, we have a building height, but not a roof height.
It does not specify the roof pitch, especially on that state route overlay district.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
I think that it's very, very steep.
Okay.
Yeah, are we getting into that stuff now?
We will, I mean,
I think
I'm
we'll
just,
discuss that with staff after the.
but there
we hear
is
from the
not
applicant.
there's not a
Ready.
code, that meets code currently.
I mean, that's something that we can give as a form of feedback or a condition, you know.
Great.
Okay.
other quick question. Are we only looking at phase 1 right now?
Yes, we're looking at
Okay.
phase 1 right now because that's the structure that they're going to build.
Okay.
Um,
And that does not include the pavilion?
It will include the pavilion.
Okay. So the
So-
first half of the building
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
pavilion?
So in the final review, I asked the applicant to provide more details about the pavilion because on this preliminary draft, they only provided just for the building.
And when is the plan for phase 2, or is that a question?
So that is a
for-
question for the applicant. Yep. All right.
Okay, any other questions for staff? At this point? Okay. Thank you, Jackie.
All right.
If the applicant could come forward, please.
Hello, good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name is Biju Ipan, 3505 Bethany Bend, Milton, Georgia, 30004. You guys can ask whatever, I'll try to answer whatever you guys have question, yeah. My contractor is here too, any technical questions, yes.
Okay, great. All right, any questions for the applicant?
All right, you want to start?
You go ahead.
Okay. So if it's a two-story building,
Mhm.
what are you gonna use above the 20-foot mark? Why does the roof,
I mean, more than the two floor we have it, that's obviously classrooms.
and then what's above that?
Attic, I mean, just
So
maybe.
there's no third floor?
No.
So I'm just gonna throw it out here. Right now, it doesn't seem like it fits Milton
Mhm.
design, and I think it is the pitch of the roof. I think the current building does, because the roof pitch isn't as drastic. So when I first saw the drawings, my first thought was Helen, Georgia, and not Milton. I think if the roof wasn't as tall and the pitch wasn't as steep, then all the architectural, like the wood beams and everything, would fit in better with Milton rather than the high pitch.
I think the pitch we have is what, 8, right? 8? Yeah, that's. what
Which
we
is
have.
pretty steep.
Very steep.
Yeah.
But I mean, we talked to city, yeah. So it is. I mean,
Well, it's steep when you compare what looks to be like a 4 or a 512 on the existing building. And because it's so deep, that 812 pitch is over, 50, 60 feet.
Yeah.
especially when the second phase come, I think it will kind of looks, a little different.
What was the purpose? Is it just for aesthetics? Because I know I would assume that's probably more expensive to build as well.
You mean for the height?
The steeper pitch, yeah.
I mean, it looks, I mean, 2 floor, I think it kind of balance out. I mean, it's not really, I mean, if you have to go down a little bit, I'm okay with that. That's okay.
Okay. I don't think it balances it out, actually. I think it makes it seem overpowering.
I agree.
And if you look at the gables that you have proposed too, those look like a 1512 or 1412, and then an 812 main roof. It looks out of proportion. Whereas like on the existing building, and I'm not saying build the existing building, I think this is definitely a better approach than the existing. Not that there's anything wrong with the existing. But all of the pitch on the existing building are the exact same. So for me personally, I think it misses the mark with those gables on the north or the east and, right elevation and front elevation with the double gable there. I don't know if the double gable is necessary, but if you choose to continue to go with that, I would make that pitch the same as the main roof to give it a little bit more character, which I know that would widen that entryway a little bit. Or even if you had just brought the pitch down on the double story kind of entryway and then had that same pitch on the main roof, you could spread it out with a water table across and tie into that main entrance, right? So just so it makes it cohesive, because then you have a different pitch on the kind of awning that surrounds the entire building as well, right? So you've got 3 different pitches going on, plus double gable on the front and left side. The gable that you have on the right side, fits a little bit better, I think, but it still needs to be, that pitch to me needs to match with the principal roof itself. And I agree with the rest of the board is you could reduce that pitch, a little bit to bring that roof line down. And I think it would make it not appear as grand. And from a cost perspective, I know that's going to cost you a lot less as far as reducing that pitch. Then my other kind of going off on a tangent is if you did your second addition or phase 2, you could almost do a lower ridge that crossed in between those 2. And that would be very nice versus just one long ridge that kind of connects both buildings. That's a massive roof structure to build. Whereas if you lowered the pitch in between those 2, it would kind of create a little bit of symmetry between the 2 phases, but then would also bring that center portion of the roof down. It's hard to kind of explain, but that would reduce it a little bit. So you'd almost bring it down to where you have the height of the gable originally that's on the front elevation, that same height connecting between the 2 phases.
Yeah, I mean, those things are okay. I mean, I'm fine with that.
What is your plan? What's the situation with phase one, phase two? Is it just timing, money?
Well, it's the bank. That's because, they look at what kind of income coming in and they give accordingly the money. But then the number of kids goes up, then they give for the phase two. That's what it is.
Got it. Okay.
So what's your plan? And you may not have the answer, but
It's
second phase.
yeah, 3 to 5 years. That's typical.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back to the attic space, coming from a heating and air conditioning company, a lower roof is going to save you some energy loss also, unless you plan on spray foaming, which is very expensive. So I agree with what Ken and David said about just lowering that pitch, reducing the space up there, because that's going to higher your operating cost also.
Sure. I mean, that's okay.
And I like the sloped roof because there's a lot of residential around there. So I think it'll go with context, but it's just too massive of
That's fine.
a structure right there.
The other thing is like the windows on the second floor. I feel like they're lower, and I don't know if that's something that maybe your architect could explore, is that you've got a lot of space above those windows on the second floor to the roof line, but then very minimal space from where those windows are to the roof line of the awning below. For me personally, I'd love to see transoms, but being conscientious, maybe move those windows up a little bit and create a little bit more space below, a little bit space up top. Doesn't necessarily have to be symmetrical, but I think that would be a better look. Then you just don't have such a broad space above each one of those windows where it just kind of looks out of characteristic, because now you have that band there, which helps break that a little bit, but you almost could maybe even remove that band above those windows if you just shifted them up. And I don't know if the rest of, we haven't seen the floor plans and stuff, if that would allow for it. But I think that would kind of help balance out that exterior as well.
I'll definitely look into that. I mean, again, this is Montessori way. The way we work is even kids use windows for them to decorate, for them to clean, all those things they do as well.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
I have to look into
Taller
that,
window
yes.
even.
Does Montessori, are they involved in the exterior design of the?
No,
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 okay.
no.
They don't have curriculum or criteria? that
No,
you
but
follow?
they will be like gardening, those kind of thing, yes.
And I think to staff's recommendations, I actually really like that recommendation, not necessarily about the door, but about the plantings, and show the plantings on that side. Because life happens, right? You could get in there and the bank says in 3 years, nah, we're not going to do phase two. So then we've got basically a one side facade that doesn't really meet the code. And I think knowing that there's a phase two, you've gone to the work to kind of do everything, but we kind of have to look at what's in front of us now. So I would say is that when you do kind of come back and re-enhance that drawing, I'd love to see some trees there, something that would kind of mask a little bit of that side, especially when we're coming down Bethany Bend. We're going to be seeing tennis courts eventually, a pavilion, throwing a couple trees in there, maybe some 2 or 3
There
inch.
is actually, the parking lot islands and everything, we are putting trees
Yep,
there.
yep.
So it's there, yes.
Just to offset the fact that it's not necessarily meeting the code, the minimum code that's required for that side. So I think that would be a good kind of olive branch, right? A compromise is to maybe plant some stuff, which are fairly inexpensive, that have some height to them. It doesn't need to be egregious, but that would kind of mask the missing pieces of that side, knowing eventually you're going to most certainly, if allowable, is to connect those buildings anyway, right? So,
Yep.
okay. Anything else for the applicant? Any other questions or anything? No? Did you have anything else to add? Or?
No, don't.
No? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so before we go to board discussion, public comment?
We have none.
We have none. I'll close public comment. Board discussion. Talked about roof, right? I think that's a consensus. Would we agree? So the pitch of the roof, I think needs to be explored. I would love to see what that pitch is and then how it can be reduced. So if it's an 8-12, which it looks more of like a 10-12 to me, but bringing it down to maybe like a 6-12 or something like that.
Do we know the height of the apartments across the street from y'all? I know it's Forsyth County and that's kind of irrelevant, but just from a visual perspective, that there's those junction apartments directly across the street from y'all. And they just put a senior living community that's got 5 floors on it, I believe. Again, it's Forsyth, but from a heights perspective, to play devil's advocate of the height, it's only 40.
Those are pretty far off the road, correct?
Yes.
They're right at that circle.
Oh,
But
yeah,
there's
at the
multiple
circle,
stories
but
there. I want to say
That's where the new, the second part, not phase 1, is still going to be closer towards, I guess that's Deerfield. It's a Deerfield.
no, it's Morse Road.
Morris Road, so more
Morris
towards the dead end.
But I think
But-
those are more than 2 stories, right?
Yeah, and I think
So
those
that's
junctions are
3
three or four minimum at that circle where it kind of splits into 3 ways.
I think
So it's
this,
just
the
something to
roof
consider.
though, it's more of a, it's, number one, it's not proportional in my opinion. I think that it's just too steep. It doesn't look, it doesn't
Well, it draws your attention to the roof and not the exterior
immediately,
facade.
immediately.
Okay, what else?
I like your idea about the windows, or even if they did a taller window, like you said, adding a transom or just a overall taller window, but I don't know if they would match the windows below. You know what I mean? If,
They look to be the same height.
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So,
I'd be okay with that though, having the transom. A, it'd add more light,
mhm.
or B, like I said, is just moving it up even 6 to 8 inches to reduce that gap, the offset between the bottom and the top.
Because again, it just draws your eye up to the roof. See that gap and then the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an asphalt shingle color selected, or do you have an idea?
This birchwood,
Birchwood?
timberline.
It's similar or dark color. That's very
Okay.
similar to what we have.
I think also in this elevation, it looks like a gray, and it also stands out. It doesn't blend with the other colors. And that may be another reason why it looks so prominent, because it's kind of the lightest part other than the brick.
The birchwood does have some good undertones to it, so it'll bring in that kind of brown. It does have some brown, a little bit of brown, very subtle,
More warm.
some black as well. So I think that this rendering, yeah, it's
More like
similar
the-
to, well, I can't really tell from the picture, but it looks similar. But this definitely looks a more stark gray than
Yeah.
what that actual
Yeah.
shingle is.
Got it.
Just out of curiosity, why did we put the front entrance not facing Bethany Bend? Why do we put it kind of facing Morse Road? Is that just logistical
It's
for
the-
parking lot, or?
Yeah, it's the land architecture, the way it is because of the flood zone and everything. This is the way we were able to come up with, yeah.
I was just curious. Because the existing front door faces,
Yes, we wanted that, but it didn't work out that.
Out of curiosity, do you have any plans to modify the current building? At all?
No, right now, no.
Okay.
It's phase 3.
Okay.
Okay, any other kind of comments, suggestions?
What about the framing for the windows on the second story? Would it be worth exploring a different color so that it stands out a little bit more as in the first story?
yeah, it kind of looks darker on the first floor. I don't know if that's because it's shadowed or.
These will have SDLs, right? Simulated divided lights,
I-
grids
Grids
in
inside
the
the
windows.
Yeah, I
okay.
believe so. That's the
They're
way
very
it is.
faint in the picture. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that
Yeah.
they're not just clear windows as well.
If that's the case, then you want them all to match, so then.
Yeah, correct. I think the windows themselves will, do you know what material the windows will be?
I believe it's vinyl.
Vinyl,
I
okay.
think so, yeah.
would you think about
It
doing
says,
like a
okay,
hip roof?
placement. Aluminum storefront system with tinted glass.
You know, like a, do you think a hip roof? Would make it
Aluminum
look
cladded
more
windows.
Milton-like? It's, what gets me is the steepness of this.
Mhm.
And I
I
think
know,
that's
it's
why it's
just-
looking like,
This one's,
yeah, this one's the worst one.
yeah, I
Just
think, I
like-
kind of think they just need to play and see what works.
Yeah.
Slope roofs are tricky too.
Talking about the double gable on the front?
Well,
Well,
just.
that's what makes it look so grand is because they've got a double gable there.
Well, are they not trying to somewhat
I
mimic
think they're
Yeah.
trying to.
what's on the first
I
building?
just, yeah.
Yeah, that could be.
This one is so much wider, and that's why I feel like we're struggling a little bit. This one, the pitch is so steep.
Yeah, so it's,
So you get the Germantown look,
Mhm.
and if it just was wider,
Yeah, it's almost,
it would feel more like it was in keeping with Milton.
I will say though, I like not as steep, but steeper than this roof line.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
I think this
For sure.
updates
I think
it.
just because of the sheer size and the length of the building itself, you're gonna have a larger pitch than that. And the height of the main roof, just the depth and everything too. So where it's like the existing building is like a 412 or something like that. This, I don't think you want to go any lower than like a 612. So, okay. What else? So we talked about roof, talked about windows. We talked about the pitch, the double gable, adding some plantings to the,
The courtyard.
East side.
what is it, the back elevation, which is the
North.
north elevation.
And just revisiting, but the door that staff recommended, do
Mhm.
we have a recommendation, like where you think that should go? Do we agree that there needs to be a door?
Yeah, I think.
Again, the side door is
being a stairwell.
primarily for emergency purpose. I
Yeah,
mean,
is it
you know,
fire code or?
School
Is it a
security
code?
is very important, so we just try to, everybody to get in from the main entrance.
Mhm.
So that's again for emergency, and second phase come, that's all going to come out anyway.
Is it needed though for egress? That door for the stairs?
I don't know it's needed, but I think that's the fire, I guess, for fire purpose, or, you know.
So, yeah.
If it was they would make them put it, code would make them put it in anyways.
Yeah, I think.
And then the pavilion, if we could get the pitch of the pavilion roof to match the pitch of the,
Yeah, materials,
yeah.
per staff's recommendation. Lights too, any kind of lights and stuff that you're gonna have on there,
Yes,
we'd
we
like to
have,
see.
we have our engineer designing that outside all the parking lot, yes.
And is that red brick that you guys are proposing on this new one, is that the same red brick that's on the
Almost, yeah,
existing?
we try to get.
Similar,
Similar,
okay.
yeah.
So that'll tie that in.
So it's the red brick water table, and then it looks like a whitewashed kind of brick
Mhm.
or a gray
The
wash.
cream. The whitewash?
It's a winter haven.
Yeah.
Which, on your exterior finish schedule, I will just say this is when you come back, is that winter haven brick is a quite different color than
Mhm.
the white that we're seeing on there, right? So I just want to make sure we,
Is
We're
that
good
a
on that.
creamier brick, like a more
Winter Haven
off-white?
looks darker.
It's darker.
Winter Haven's darker, I think. It looks
it's been a while since I've seen that brick, but yeah, it's definitely darker. It's not the white. Okay. What else?
I'd like to see a sample board, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the finishes.
Samples, you mean?
Yes.
Mhm.
With brick sample?
You have the brick, in the paint
Colors,
color.
Okay.
It would be nice to have the roof.
Yeah, we can bring it next time, right?
I mean, I would say at minimum is enlarge your exterior finish schedule. So we have maybe a page of it. Samples are awesome if you could do that.
Okay.
That just helps visualize, right? Kind of helps put it all together. Now, do we need you to bring in like 20 bricks? No. Right?
I do have a question though. So there's two different bricks
Yeah.
that are, where is the, Louisville Tudor?
Is this
So that's the water table. If you look
Water
at where it
table.
kind
Yeah.
of goes
That's
down
the
to a
bottom.
lower
Right
level.
here, yeah.
Mhm.
And then where is the brick on the Woodstead wall, the Winter Haven? Where is
That is the
that?
white.
It's
That's
the
what's
white.
left.
That's what we're,
Oh, that's the
yeah, so that's what we're
That's how
kind
we're
of,
struggling.
Okay, that, I missed that, sorry.
again, samples be huge, right?
Yeah.
So-
Or are you planning on painting the brick veneer after it's up?
I didn't do anything existing one, still we have it same color what we originally have.
I didn't know
So-
if they were using that brick veneer and then painting it.
That's a good
White.
question.
Mm.
It
Oh, no,
doesn't
we'll
say
see if we can
painted,
get the
If that
same
is the
brick.
case, does it say painted?
No.
No, if that is the case, then what paint color, right?
Okay.
Are you planning on having pavers? It looks like there's a lot of pavers that are on the,
Yes, there will be, that's the way from the roundabout, it's coming all the way in front of this building and going to existing building.
okay. And then is it going to lead into the pavilion? It looked like on one of the renderings that there'd be a border of pavers around the pavilion. And if so, just if you can also include that when you bring the materials for the
For
next
the
time.
sidewalks and all?
Yes. Yeah, the
Yeah,
pavers.
it's going to be concrete, yeah, sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna do concrete, that's fine, but if you're
Okay.
gonna do some sort of decorative
You mean
paver or
here?
something like
Okay.
that,
Yeah,
we'd
it
love
looks
to
like
see
it's
that,
something
right?
Yeah.
else.
I think on the entrance, not the drive, that she's wanting to.
Yeah,
make-
but if you look at the site plan, it's showing kind of a, you know, a highlighted little area that's, well, but that's concrete.
Right here. Talking about this, I think.
Yeah, it just says
Seem like-
concrete. It's just kind of got a red
Yeah.
tint to it. So, okay.
Can.
All right. Overall, though, I think some tweaks, right? But I think it's different. I kind of like it. I love so positives, okay? I love the brackets, the details. I'd love to see a picture of those if you have something in mind, whether it's a specific bracket or you're just cutting some 6x6s and posting them up there, right? What colors are those going to be? Is that going to match the vertical wood paneling up above? I think that should. Same with your cross beams and up in your gables on the sides, the vents and the additional brackets and stuff you're using too. I feel like that should all be the same color.
I don't see any gutters. I just-
Yeah, no gutters,
Yeah, I was,
but I would assume
I would assume they'd be brown.
the gutters would match whatever that color is. So if you
Yeah,
have
it
a
will be
gutter-
similar color, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just as long as they're not red, right?
Yeah,
Or
sure.
got it. So we just want to make sure that, so then that way, when we go through the final approval, we can say, we're very confident in what you've done here. We know this is what you're going to build. It's going to look great. It's going to be a great attribute to the city of Milton.
Sure.
So just some more details that I think could help us better visualize and then also make the decision easier for us as well.
Absolutely. Again, there's 16 years I've been doing the business.
Yeah.
You can see the existing building. I mean, it's all, we keep very good.
Mhm.
Landscape, we do very good. So we want to make it look good.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Absolutely.
As do we. So thank you. Okay, was there anything else? No? Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So in the courtesy review, I guess we will just kind of make recommendations. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do they need to be formal? And we kind of, yes, you'd like to see
Yes,
that.
we did. Just kind of gather the consensus of the board and what are the recommendations from the board, and then we'll
Okay.
incorporate that. We discussed that with the applicant to make sure all of that will be met.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody want to try this one or?
Nope.
I think you're- I think
All
you're
right,
right, Chairman.
so I'll go. So I would make a recommendation for the following. A, staff's recommendations. B, on the proposed phase 2 side of the building, which is the back elevation, to show some more plantings, some trees, bushes, whether it be evergreens like they've kind of got in the rear, which kind of goes hand in hand with staff's recommendation to try and mask the lack of meeting the architectural guidelines as stated in our packet for ultimate approval. 2 would be to explore the roof pitch of the main structure. We recommend lowering that roof pitch to not too low, but not too high. So I feel like a balance of in between. The gables on each end of the building to reflect the reduction in the roof pitch and be similar, if not the same pitch. To explore, on like CDE maybe now, to explore raising the windows or adding transoms to the second floor to reduce the blank space above the windows on the second floor between the roof line, the soffit, and the top of the windows. To provide the bracket, a picture of the brackets, more detailed pictures and or samples of the bricks, the paint colors, to include lights or the proposed lights.
We have to add
Signage was part of staff's recommendations.
Let me see.
Gutters, the same color.
Gutters would be great too. So really just add some more exterior details and or samples / photos or shop drawings of the brackets and stuff like that as well. So. And a color sample board too. Would be
Okay.
great. So that is my recommendation. Would the board like to do a motion to agree on those recommendations?
I'll make a motion to recommend Ken's recommendations.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion to recommend the recommendations from Mr. Jackson and a second from Mrs. Jackson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Really looking forward to it. Looks good. A couple tweaks. Looking forward to seeing you back here.
That was a great discussion, actually. It helps them as they, finalize this plan.
Hope so. Hope they don't feel like we're telling them their baby's ugly.
Oh.
We're just trying to help.
Yeah.
Well, it's all subjective, right? I mean,
Yeah, they're all.
But I do feel like that as a board, that's kind of part of what we can do is just to really help kind of steer in a direction that we feel is more fitting for the city of Milton.
I agree.
Take it with a grain of salt, but I feel like that, this is a pretty good presentation, just needs a little bit more, and especially for a courtesy review, I think that
Yes.
that's, beneficial for both City of Milton and the applicant, so.
Yeah. that's
Anyway.
true.
And we're not adding significant costs. We were reducing it a little bit.
I'm a very big proponent of that is
Right.
to tweaks to not necessarily redesign. So, okay. So that finishes up our courtesy reviews. We'll move on to 7A. Actually, do we need to wait for Mr. Casey?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Snuck out.
This next one, I'm excited.
something else
But
I
I'm
drive
confused
past
about
8
as well.
times a day.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and present it. It's 7A, final reviews, Milton's Cuisines and Cocktails, 800 Mayfield Road for a landscape review.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our last agenda item for our review is a landscape review for 800 Mayfield. And this is for the Milton's Cuisine and Cocktail. So the applicant is here tonight, Mr. Chris Hatterman. from Southern Property Hospitality. He's requesting a final review of the revised landscape plan for the restaurant. So the total size of this property is 1 acre within the Crabapple form-based code, and the existing use is restaurant. So this just show the layout or the aerial view of the subject sites, pretty close to where we are. It's right there at the heart of Crabapple. So just a little bit of background. We have the Design Review Board back in 2022 approved the building and the landscape plan for this property. So you see in this image was the landscape plan that was approved 2 years ago. And they are coming back to seek some feedback and your review for the revised landscape plan, which includes the following scope of work: addition of a 3-split rail fence along Birmingham Highway, an improved landscaping, removal of the tent pad, and the addition of a lawn dining area. So for this is the site plan of the property to show the property line. This is where the proposed 3-split rail fence is going to go. The tent pad, which will be removed, and then the proposed lawn dining area. This is the landscape plan that shows you some existing vegetation. They're just going to revitalize some of the plantings there. Again, they're adding the 3-split rail fence, which matches the one that's already in there where my cursor is. So they're just match the look of that fence. They're going to add here for a pervious slate chip area, and this will serve as the dining area, as well as some lawn chair just to the left side of it. And as you can see in the site plan, they remove the tent pad. So some supplemental information for this one, as mentioned earlier, they're going to revitalize beds and accent areas. These are the list of shrubs that they are planting. The Bermuda ground cover, they're going to sod that area and put some Bermuda grass. As for hardscape, they're adding, again, as I mentioned, the pervious patio, which is the slate chip, and some pervious fabric. They're going to remove the existing tent space, and they're going to add some string of lights and post, and some miscellaneous work, core soil grading, adding some silt fence, tree safe fence when they do this construction or landscaping work, and then some pine straw. So just to share the fence and outdoor furniture, and I believe they've already purchased all this furniture long ago, and they've already, put it safely somewhere. And once this plan is approved, they're gonna put them up. And of course, the revised landscape plan met the standards of the Crabapple form-based code, but we have some following comments. Just to submit a fence application separately. Consult with the city arborist on the type of trees to be planted. And then ensure that the lighting in the lawn area is not too bright or distracting for pedestrian and drivers. Ends my presentation. And any question for staff?
Seeing none? No, thank you,
Awesome.
Jackie. I appreciate
Thank
that. At this time, the applicant, if you'd like to come forward, maybe give us a little bit additional information. Or not, it's up to you guys.
You're welcome.
I'm a little embarrassed with the comment that the furniture's been purchased already.
Our fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, well, we're just wanting to beautify and enhance the property, and obviously having some dining options out in the lawn itself would be something I think we'd all enjoy, and just want to make sure that we've got the proper zoning for fencing, controlling egress and ingress and that kind of stuff. We want to do more. We're going to break it into phases just because it's, everything's changed and it's gotten more expensive. But for now, this just additional dining is going to be, I think, a nice amenity to the property and make the property in the building look better just from Birmingham Highway even driving by.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
I mean, this doesn't really mean anything, but I'm just curious. What was the reason for removing the tent?
Just, no one's proud of the tent there. Just, it obviously, main function, to state the obvious, is for outside events when the weather doesn't cooperate. And so you have to have it. And the event business is a big part of the business. And so we were able to get we leased the property behind our property where we have the garden. So we're going to move the tent back there to go up and down whenever we have those events and just get it off Birmingham Highway. So it's just not the eyesore that it's become. At some point, I hope to come back in front of you with a second proposal where we'd like to build more of a permanent but very rustic barn structure that will look good and match the property, but that's down the road in the next phase.
Great. Any other questions?
Are you taking reservations for outdoor seating?
Excellent. Yeah.
Are you taking reservations for outdoor seating?
Of course.
I have none.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so no questions for the applicant. I will open up for public comment.
We have none.
I will close public comment. Any discussion from the board? No? All right. I would like to call for a motion then.
I will make a motion to approve the final review of Milton's Cuisine and Cocktail, 800 Mayfield Road.
I second.
All right, so we have a motion for approval from Ms. Gagné and a second from Ms. Coker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Congrats. Looking forward to it, guys. Thank you.
Need a DRB meeting.
Yeah. Can't have more than 4.
Quorum, yeah. Oh, excuse me. All right, so moving on, that kind of ends all of our reviews for tonight, and we'll move to 8 new business where we'll do Deerfield implementation plan. Mr. Buscemi, great to see you.
Good to see you too, Chair. I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm Bob Buscemi. Let's see, I'm the city architect, was the community development director for a long time, and now I'm the director of special projects. So we'll just touch base on that a little bit. I want to first congratulate this board at doing a great job. I've been here since the beginning, been as the city architect. I've been managing the design review board for years and years and years. And I really like the engagement that I see from this board. I really like the feedback. I will say that Milton is special. We were rated the best city in the state of Georgia by Travel and Leisure magazine. We just took #1 on customer service out of 400 cities nationally. They came back and said, boy, you guys are doing such a great job. You're #1. That's a big achievement to be #1 in the country. We're the richest city in the state of Georgia. And Milton, when I started with Milton, I mean, Milton was just formed as a city. And they really formed because they wanted planning and zoning control. That was the main function. And so I will say Milton became Milton in a very deliberate way. And we did it by design. We really sat down and said, we want to make Milton a special place. We want Milton to be Milton-esque. And the DRB has, throughout the years, played an enormous role in that, achieving that. So everything you do, the time you spend, I just want to personally say thank you to all of you because it really keeps Milton Milton. And, I've been here so long, Milton's in my soul. It just kind of hits you. I probably won't be here forever. And it's kind of nice just to see boards really understand Milton and the architecture and keeping Milton Milton because it is a special place. Now, when we started Milton, we didn't have any buildings. We really looked at Crabapple, which was practically nothing here. We really sat down and planned out a master plan of Crabapple and what it should look like. Where should we put these buildings like City Hall and what we should do. So everything here was pretty deliberate. This used to be a big detention pond. I don't know, you're sitting on water right now because I have buried water under the building. I got 14 foot, probably up to the ceiling, pipes. You could drive cars through them. And that's what stores all the water for this district. It all goes underneath here because we didn't want to take up any usable, taxable space. We wanted to be centrally located in Crabapple. We did tons of studies. And the architecture played an important role. The architecture is huge. The city of Milton reviews just about every building that confronts a city street, not within a subdivision, but within a city street. Any building that's in the Crabapple or Deerfield area, and all commercial or non-single family gets reviewed by this board. So that's big responsibility, and I think we've done a good job with Crabapple. We've won several awards, and Crabapple's doing good. So then the city looks and came to me and said, Bob, we really want to start concentrating now on Deerfield. So Deerfield's a special place. It's a much larger land area than we have here in Crabapple. But we started by saying, okay, it's also an area that we had a lot of pre-existing buildings from Fulton County, pre-City of Milton. We have a few buildings that I have sprinkled in there that are new. But for the most part, a lot of Deerfield is pre-existing. So we're really looking now to revitalize Deerfield and to say, what do we need to do to activate Deerfield as an important element as Crabapple? How do we really make it that? Now, it's a different kind of area. Crabapple, we started saying it's very historic, and, we deliberately wanted it to be that. Deerfield's a little different. It confronts 400. It's a larger land area. We have a lot of corporate presence, which I'll show you mostly vacant today because of COVID, and that's just the way corporate America is going. So we want to reactivate all of these areas, and Deerfield's a very special place. So they said, Bob, just see if you could just be Director of Special Projects. And the special project, even though they give me a couple here and there, the real special project is Deerfield. So we came up with another deliberate term called Destination Deerfield. So that's what we're calling it. And I just want to give you a quick presentation on where we are with the implementation plan. And what's the difference? Why did we call it an implementation plan? I did that because just calling it a master plan study is kind of conceptual. We'll look at things. We'll say, well, what would it like? What would it be? What's our vision? It's a little different here because we have a lot of land area, which I will show you tonight, in Deerfield, where we have developers and landowners who are coming into the city saying, we really want to enhance and revitalize our land. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So when I go to council, I say, look, we got like 6 applications coming in. And they go, wow, Bob, you have 6 or 8 applications coming in all at once, and these are huge land areas? Maybe it'd be a good idea, instead of seeing them individually, to do this plan where we can actually show the implementation of what would that all look like at once, right? Before we approve any one of them, let's look at them collectively. Let's put them all in a model, a 3D model, and let's see what it looks like. Let's drive through the model. Let's fly through the model. Let's really study what this build out is going to look like before it happens and see if we like it. Do we include housing? Do we include multifamily housing? Do we include single family housing? Do we include more corporate space? Do we have retail? Where does it go? How does it look? And the architecture is one of my biggest pillars in the whole implementation plan, right? Because we want to ensure that the architecture becomes Milton-esque, is Milton. And sometimes, there's more height there than there is here. So maybe you might look at a building that's 4 or 5 stories high. The code allows that height. And say, well, what does it really look like? Because we don't want 5-story walls in the middle of Highway 9. I mean, that's probably not the look we're looking for. But if you make the architecture correct and things step back and things don't look so massive, and then we break down the scales, it might actually look pretty good. So we hired, I hired Cooper Carey, so this is Allison Vickers. And the reason we went really with Cooper Carey is because they're an architectural firm. And they helped us design and work on the construction of City Hall. They helped us do the public safety complex. They helped us do the wayfinding signage that you see throughout Crabapple, you know, the wood signs with the signs and all, which really are very successful. So I thought it was good to bring that kind of talent in as well. But I really, really want to hear from this board, because we're going to start discussions about what should the massing of these buildings look like? What's the overall density, not the required density, but visual density that is going to be applied to these projects? Does it look appropriate from the road? Is it inward facing, outward facing, right? Do we drive into a development and then we see it like Avalon? Avalon is not outward facing, it's inward facing. You drive into Avalon, you drive around, you enjoy the experience, you drive out. Driving past Avalon, you would never know Avalon's existing inside. But sometimes you want outward-facing projects, you know, because people like a lot of traffic on the street. We get 20,000 trips per day on Highway 9. So we've done a lot of this study, you know, what's going on, where's the traffic, what's the construction going to look like, what is it going to take to reactivate these? But I will just reiterate again that the architecture is probably the most important pillar of the whole project. I don't want to put that pressure on you, but I really need feedback from this board on what they think Deerfield would be, because it is a little bit different than historic Crabapple. It is a little bit different. We do have apartments there presently. We do have corporations that are there with a lot of space. Some of them are empty, but we have a Verizon. We have the H building, which is almost 500,000 square feet of corporate that's empty, and I'm trying to revitalize that right now and get people to repopulate that. Same thing with Verizon. It's totally empty. We have those 2 5-story towers that are in the middle of that corporate park with nothing around it but parking lot, and that's all empty. So it's like, what do we really do to revitalize these areas? And we don't have to look at Deerfield just as one big district. We could look at Deerfield as sub-districts within a district. So when I did Crabapple, we started to look at Crabapple as a district, and then we said, oh, well, there's an area left. And the chair of the planning of the design review board at the time came to me and said, gee, Bob, we still have this one little area, this one quadrant left, and I really would like to see that as a sub-district within the district. That was really his idea. He was the chair at the time, and he came in and said, I really want to see a sub-district within a district. And we really didn't change it very much, but we tweaked it to really make that into a special sub-district. And I will tell you tonight that we're working on that feverishly, and it's almost everything you see here has already been designed or in planning or going to get built. So anything you see that's empty, we're already getting plans in to do it. So Crabapple's almost all done, but Deerfield's still there. So let me without any further, because I just chatter along, I'm sorry. Okay, so the agenda tonight we have is our progress on what we're doing, and that's why I try to explain what an implementation is. Some of our guiding principles, discussion of architectural styles, and then next steps. So let me just introduce Allison so she can go through her team.
Hi. So I'm Allison Vickers. I'm an urban designer with Cooper Carey. As Bob said, we worked with the city for a long time, had the pleasure of working on designing City Hall, and we are very proud of what this City Hall represents. And so I'm leading a team, but as Bob alluded to, there's a lot of complex issues in Deerfield to start to think about how does Deerfield really, how do you create an implementation plan in Deerfield that when you drive into Deerfield from Alpharetta or Forsyth County or other parts of Milton, you know that you're in Milton and you know that you're in Deerfield. So that involves a lot of professionals. So as Bob said, we're working hard to really visualize and 3D mass everything in the proposals and the existing. And so Dana Martinez is on the team and is really working hard on that. But we also have landscape architects, Greg Kaiser. We have mixed use experts, Daniel Sweeney. Paul Bowman, who does experiential graphics, and then also Sean McClendon, who is an office market expert, but also happened to be the architect from Cooper Carey who worked on this and the public safety building. So has a real understanding of the office market in Northern Fulton County, but also Milton's architectural standards. And then on the consultant team, we have Steve Rowe from AEC, who is a civil engineer who's done a lot of work and is doing a lot of work in Milton. Malika Rivers with Pontum Resources, and she is one of the foremost leaders in understanding CIDs in the state of Georgia, but also other ways to potentially help manage public realm in districts. And how does that get managed and in a way that is beneficial and everything's well maintained and funded. We also have Joel Mann from Stantec for transportation strategy, and then Kyle Talente from RKG, who's looking at the economic development and the market analysis, because we know that we can recommend architecture and we can recommend a look and feel, but if it is not financeable, it's difficult to see any change. And so, as we talked last week, their role is to come up with the numbers behind it, and our role is to visualize that market for you.
Okay, so part of this plan is a strong, extremely strong communication plan, because like I said, we have several projects that have come in, and the developers want to see if they can get that through the system. So putting all these projects together into the visualization, we really want to make sure that we reach out in a communication plan to all the stakeholders. And you'll see we've identified all the stakeholders. We have our own dedicated website, so you can go visit that as often as you'd like. We do keep it up to date. We're constantly updating it. We have our whole communication department aggressively working on this. They have several people just dedicated to this project. We're doing videos and multimedia, so you'll be able to see a lot of video coverage, interviewing, renderings. They have all sorts of social media. You see that list on the right. And a lot of public engagements. We already had a kickoff, which I'll show you some pictures of. And then on the 17th, I believe it is? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Make sure I get my dates right. From 6 to 8 at Stone Creek Church, we're going to do an open house where we'll have several tables. One will be architecture. One will be transportation, right? So there'll be different tables and that affect the plan. And people will be able to come in at any time they want between 6 and 8 and just kind of walk through and talk to staff about each one. And one of those tables will even be events, because we can make great architectural spaces, great buildings, and how those buildings relate to open space is something I also want to hear feedback from you tonight, if we have enough time, if I don't keep talking, because I really want to hear from you. But not just the architecture. When you look at the picture, don't say, Bob, yeah, we kind of like the picture, but if you could just preference that also with, you know, it belongs on a street frontage, or it should be on an open space. This would be great in a, you know, in an area that's a plaza, you know, where people can come and gather, you know, because architecture and massing has its context. Where does it belong? So some people just look at the picture and go, picture looks really great. I like that architecture. But if I put it in the wrong placement on the site, it doesn't have the same impact. So if you can marry for me, not just what I think about the building, but this building would really be great here or should be placed there. So anyway, that's what we're looking at. We have meeting with all the boards. DRB is on there. And then we came up with our own project logo. Everybody has selected number 2, so it's the one we're going with. But we're calling it, we were sitting around and just having this brainstorming session, and we all kept saying it's a destination, it's a destination. So we said, well, let's just call it Destination Deerfield. So the long-term logo might be a little different, but the plans logo will be Destination Deerfield. I wanted to give you some quick updates on GDOT. I don't know if you've been following GDOT, but Highway 9 is a big spine through the Deerfield area. It's a very prominent road. It's owned and operated and maintained by the state, by the Department of GDOT. And they designed Alpharetta, Milton, and Forsyth, and they started construction in the Milton area. And then I started talking to a lot of the landowners, and they all said, well, they're ripping my fence and my walls, but they never actually approached me. So we went to GDOT and said, look, I got like 15 people, but it's not one, it's like 15. And they all started writing letters to GDOT, and GDOT quickly realized that the person who was doing the land acquisition was falsifying. I guess that was what's in the newspaper, so I don't want to make any accusations on anybody. But they said that they didn't purchase the property prior to going and executing that contract. So it kind of stopped the project. So then that gave us kind of an opportunity at the same time. The city looked at it and said, geez, we're seeing what's built in Alpharetta, and quite frankly, I don't like any of it. I don't think it's Milton-esque. I don't think it looks good. I don't like the walls. There is no trees. It looks cold. All the businesses are saying that the walls are blocking, and a wall really just doesn't visually block, but it blocks mentally, saying, why do I want to go up and shop in that store? There's a big wall. I mean, it's just a mental thing, right? So we went and met with GDOT and said, look, we really want to not redesign the whole corridor. I don't want to redesign the operation of the corridor, the functionality of the corridor. I understand that that's done and that's kind of has passed. But we do, our asks are this. We want to reduce the speed from 45 to 35. We want to do lane width reductions so that they're not as wide. That will slow down cars as well. We want to do stronger crosswalks and study some of these, what I call fast rights. They call them right channels. But they're the ones where, you're driving, you just make a right turn even on a red light, you just zip. And that's okay, but if you really want the corridor to become pedestrian oriented, which is one of our biggest tasks, right? How do we connect one side, the east side, with the west side? How do I make that connection from a pedestrian standpoint? How do we get this corridor to become activated from a pedestrian orientation? People on bicycles, multimodal, right? Golf carts, all sorts of different ways to get activation into that, and a pedestrian activation, not so much cars. GDOT cares about cars. That's what they want. And the sidewalks. What's the width of the sidewalk? What's an appropriate width? Landscape areas. Landscaping is huge. We want trees in the corridor. We want shade trees and bushes. And, if you look at other cities, even Alpharetta to the south of us, that right through their city center, it's very nice. They did get on-street parking, and they did get trees. They had a whole bunch of things. They have crosswalks. They have hawk lights. And then we go to GDOT, and they kind of say, well, that's not what we do anymore. So, we're working with GDOT to try to incorporate those items into our thing. Now, they disturbed 31 properties, and I'll just give you a quick update. 24 people have responded to GDOT saying you can go in and clean it up. So one of the things I wanted was, I don't want GDOT just to abandon the project, because it's going to be abandoned for 3 to 4 years. That's how long it takes for them to reacquire all that property. So this is a delay of 3 to 4 years. And for 3 to 4 years, I do not want to see trees down, broken fences, because this is Milton. And in 3 to 4 years, I can destroy a lot of Milton. So they're going in and they're cleaning that up. So we are having regular workshops with them, and I'll keep you in the loop on a monthly basis of how we're doing with GDOT. All right, we had a public kickoff meeting at the courthouse, at the Public Safety Complex on August 26th. We had a great turnout. We had participation from residents, business owners. We had district council members there. We had board members there. Staff presented concepts, provided updates. We asked people to put some sticky notes just to get an idea of, to engage the public that's there, right? Let them write something, stick it on. We said, what are 3 things you'd love to see or do in Deerfield? And then the next one is, what is your favorite thing that you like about Deerfield? because I was sitting here and we're having a conversation with Allison and she, and some board members, right? We had the planning chair and Ken's been involved. And we sat down and said, well, not all of Deerfield is bad. People like Deerfield. I mean, we do have like a Home Depot, we have a Walmart, a very good looking Walmart. I've tried to work with them for 15 years to get that Walmart to be better. All right, so it's a couple of strikeouts there. I think we've done good, but that one, crash and burn. But I'm not giving up on them. We're going to keep going. We are going to meet with them again to tell them what we're doing here and try to talk to them. They're in Arkansas, and I've been there, and we'll keep plugging. We never give up. But what do you like about Deerfield today? Because there are things that people like about Deerfield. It's access to 400. I can do a lot of shopping there. I can, that's where I buy all my stuff. There's a lot of things there. So that's what we were asking people. So let's go through some key milestone dates. Would you want to do that?
Yeah, so some of these it's as you see, these are sort of the key phases. So we have 3 phases, and phase 1 is really where we come up with the concept plan for the big idea. Maybe what are the sub-districts, what belongs where, what do we think the big transportation moves are, and we do that through that kind of. We tease that out of conversations with city council members, stakeholders, the developers and property owners of large parcels in the study area, and the community and the DRB and the planning board. So that all culminates into a preliminary concept plan at the end of October. And then really we launch into phase 2 pretty quickly, which is ultimately to have an urban design manual produced and ready by the end of the year so that the city council, the DRB, and the planning board feel comfortable with how you can direct the future of Deerfield and lift the development moratorium. Ultimately, that's really the highlight of phase 2. And phase 3 is sort of the behind the scenes, the less fun stuff, right? It's the code revisions that are necessary to match what the concept plan and the design manual came up with, and the final implementation plan. And that's where really, we start to talk about the different tools and incentives that can be used in order to incentivize the level of development that you want, but also fund. Where's the funding come from to maintain the public realm improvements? Public, private, a mix of it all. Where's it all coming from? So that's what will come in phase 3.
I just wanted to mention the design manual. So in the past, we've just done code. And code is kind of a okay thing. We did the UDC, a lot of effort into that. We've tried to put more graphics into the UDC. But a design manual is totally different. It's not code, but it will show you pictures, graphics. It will show you relationships to the street. It will show you how things look, heights, massing, setbacks, windows. So it's going to be pretty heavily DRB oriented. I'm really going to need your input on this design manual ultimately, because it's going to be the guide. So when we have a code and we say, oh, this is what we're looking for, I'm really hoping that when somebody comes in the future and shows you a building or a development, that you can kind of open up the guide and say, but wait, we've spent a lot of time on this guide, and this is what we're looking for, and this is how we want it to look. So did you look at the guide? Because we're not approving anything that's not in the guide. We really want it to follow what we did in the guide. So this guide is really important, and maybe we could send out some examples of guides to the board members, just so you can get an idea of what other guides. Jackie's been doing a lot of research, really good research on guides, and just to see what other cities have done, right? We're not reinventing the wheel. It's been around for a long time. We've just never adopted one. So I'd like to show you all what that looks like, so you get an idea of what the end result would be, and then we'll just Miltonize our guide. This is just showing that the GDOT process and the Deerfield process right now are running independently in a sense, but at some point very soon, probably around October, they'll just become one. Stakeholder groups, you can see the list. We have homeowners, land developers, outdoor recreation enthusiasts, business leaders, the CID, the state and the county. If you're not familiar with the CID, next month I'll give you a quick update on what the CID does, what input they have, what's their involvement in the city of Milton. They're a great organization. Real estate, retail owners, restaurant owners, and I think we added one. We're talking to a lot of different groups, and everybody keeps saying, well, this plan is good for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So what's going to keep my children in Milton? What's going to keep the younger generation staying here? Because when I talk to people, when they come to these meetings and they bring their kids, the kids are sitting there and looking. I go, what do you think? And he goes, well, I mean, Milton's nice, but I would only stay if there's bike paths and ways for me to travel. I don't want a car. I want to be able to walk around on foot. I want to be able to work at home 3 days a week. And so what we're doing is grabbing younger people and the younger age groups and saying, let's meet with them as well. Let's get their feedback. Let's find out what they want, because both of my kids have left. They've gone to other states, and I would have liked it if they had stayed here in Milton. Stakeholder meetings, we met with Orkin. He's a big landowner. Here's the map on the right, shows all the red is the potential developers who have come in. So those are all the areas there. It's Orkin and Associates. They own the Target shopping center. They don't own Target itself, but they own the balance of it. Stone Creek Church is coming in for a redevelopment. We've talked to Northside Hospital. They have land on 400 that abuts 400, and they're a good group. Because some of the uses I'd like to attract are like laboratories, pharmaceutical, Allison mentioned educational uses. So how do we repopulate all of this empty office space? We have to get high-end uses in. We have Fry's, which is empty right now and looks very unsightly. We're working with them. They're in California. The commercial office towers, they're down in Miami, and we've been working with them as well. Deerfield Professional Center is the old City Hall. That's all that one-story architecture that's over there, but it's all vacant. So when you drive through a lot of Deerfield, you don't realize a lot of these buildings are all vacant. But that's because our code, right? They used to run ComDev. I made sure the code was on top of all these landowners. We're probably going to go back and tell Fry's they got to fix it up again, because the grass is growing too high and the building's starting to look shabby. And even though it's vacant, we still want to maintain it. The problem with that is most people, when they drive by, they don't see that things are ailing and not successful in a sense that where we would like to see them. One Deerfield Center is the H building that's all the way in the back. It abuts 400 too. Most people don't even see it. It's in the middle of somewhere. It's all landscaped. You drive by on Morris, you don't even know it's back there, but it's empty. It's 500,000 square feet of empty space. We have the Verizon Center, multiple buildings. There's a huge data center. When I first started here, it was packed. Now there's gates around that lot. You can't get in. The buildings are brand new. They maintain them to the nines. I mean, it's really beautiful, but they're all empty. And having no employment base means that nobody's here shopping, supporting the retail, and keeping money flowing in to the city. And this is our economic engine. We recently made Deerfield the urban growth boundary. We put an urban growth boundary, and we told the council that it's an area that we want developed, and we put an urban growth boundary line around it, and it's very significant because it means that we can expand it. So we're not expanding any sewer or any commercial. So we're only going to redevelop and recondition this area, but it will not grow past that line. It's going to take an act of triple Congress to get that line moved. Okay, so and the last slide before we start getting into architecture is we met with Cooper Carey's team. We met with the Planning Commission. Tonight is DRB. The next charrettes, I said, is September 17th. Communications is out there. And we're even going to meet with the bicycle group just to make sure. This was the community kickoff that we did on August 25th, Sunday. We had a good turnout. We started showing stuff. You could see a lot of council members were there. We had different departments there, a lot of people, and people stayed like an hour and a half, 2 hours after the presentation. That's how interested everybody was in the area, which is good because a lot of our population resides in Deerfield, but they're not as active as other areas of Milton. You go into rural Milton, those folks are pretty active. Yeah, I can promise you, I know them all, and they're very active. But Deerfield is kind of a quiet, they're not as active, they're not as engaged. And why is that? Maybe a little bit because, sometimes I talk to folks and they go, we didn't even know we live in Milton. Our zip code is 3004. And we just thought, is this Alpharetta? That's what Allison was saying. One of our charges is placemaking, right? When you're in Deerfield, you should know you're in Deerfield. It should be branded as Deerfield. And I only say all of these things because, we do have a lot of charge for this board to look at the design manual, to look at the architecture. But when you're looking at those things, I want to brand Deerfield so when people are in it, they know they're in Deerfield. They know they're in the city of Milton, in the sub-district of Deerfield, and they say, oh, this is a great place to work, live, and play. This is a place that I can identify with, that I'm proud to be in, right? It's a little different. When I'm doing rural Milton, we worked on large lots. I'm creating all these 3-acre minimum lots. I'm pushing away from 1-acre lots from a voluntary basis. I'm just telling folks, come on in, don't do 1-acre lots, do 3-acre lots, do big farms. You maintain these farms. But when we're in Deerfield, we're not doing big farms and big lots. We're in Deerfield. This is our economic engine. So it's kind of a little of a role reversal to sit down and say, what do we need to do to maintain this? And you could see the kickoff and people putting stuff in. These are the questions that we asked. And now I'll turn it over to Allison again to go through guiding principles.
Yeah, so we've heard from, we've had a lot of input from the early stakeholders. And so with that input, we developed 6 guiding principles, and we're going to present these to the community next week. But this reflects, again, the feedback that we've gotten so far. And so the guiding principles for the Deerfield implementation plan are ultimately, when you are in Deerfield, you know you are in Milton. It's a place that businesses and local people want to be. It's comfortable and has safe places to walk. There's improved connectivity by increased options, vibrant and high-quality public realm and architecture, and a landscape that gives shade and evokes a sense of beauty. So those are high level, right? And enough for us to kind of move into developing an urban design manual that meet these guiding principles. So now for for what we're here, the big thing we're here for tonight, which is to get feedback on architectural styles. So Ken and Judy with the planning board really have helped us walk through this a little bit, and we've broken them into typologies. We have a lot of precedent imagery. We have precedent imagery that we know that you will not like. What you don't like is as important as what you do like, because that really helps us hone in on what this urban design manual and the vision for Deerfield is going to look like. Because what we've heard is this needs to be a contemporary interpretation of modern farmhouse. Well, that's a lot of adjectives. What does that really mean? And what does that mean in a commercial district? We know that Milton's tax base, we want to create an implementation plan that sets Milton up for success to have a diversified tax base so that the residential properties aren't bearing the burden of the tax needs for the city of Milton, right? So that means that it can't just be a farmhouse and it becomes an apartment building, right? So what does that begin to look like, and how does that feel? So Ken, I don't know if you want to do a little introduction, or are you good?
Yeah, so, Bob and Allison and Judy asked me to kind of be on some of these phone calls or Zoom calls that we've had. And it was basically presenting a bunch of different styles and types and architectures of, different, like she said, typology of single family, single story retail, multifamily, commercial, townhomes, et cetera. And so I had kind of gone through the same with Judy and Allison and Bob, and kind of looked at these and made some notes. And really, I think what the biggest thing is kind of, which is your favorite, which is your least favorite. Why do you like that one? Why don't you like that one? And then also too is what's missing. Like what do you think would be a good attribute to it? And there's going to be a lot of different opinions on that as far as the different styles of architecture. But what I really like about Allison is that her wealth of knowledge as far as, yeah, this may look great and we may want this, but at the same time, we have to be cognizant of what the development community is wanting to do, looking to do, or willing to do. And so I feel like getting, the rest of the board's kind of purview on what you guys think is going to help too, as this process moves forward with September 17th, so Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'm planning on being there at the Stone Creek Church if anybody else is available, for a little bit, just for some community kind of communication, and then also too to get a good idea, because the reality is all this stuff is going to come before us at some point. So I think it's good to kind of get on board now to help steer it, but then also be ready for it when it does come, because as we've just seen, there's a lot of stuff that's coming too. So also too is I'm honored just to kind of be a part of a board and a task force that really can help, as you said in the past, where the DRB and the boards have come up with kind of this. It's now kind of this new area that is not going to be overdeveloped, but redeveloped was a really good word that you guys have mentioned, is just to bring it up to kind of the Milton standard. So I think with these slides, it's a lot of them, and we didn't really get through every one of them either. But I think what we did was kind of hit the high points and the low points on some of these. And I think that's really what we're kind of looking for tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
correct? So-
Yeah, we don't need to go through, I don't need
Yeah,
comments
picture
on
by
every
picture.
single picture, but feel free after this, if you want to give more feedback on more pictures, you're certainly welcome to do so.
Mhm.
So again, I'm going to start with different typologies and I'll flip through, and then we can kind of hit the highlights of what your favorite and your least favorite. And again, in this effort, just so you know, this will also help us for what we show the community on the 17th. This helps us cull that down too. And if you think there's something missing that we need to show the community, do so. Okay, so we're going to start with single story retail. So, and I have these numbered so we can, and I'm also, just so you know, I'm taking notes on my computer as well to make sure I get all of this, even though I know it's recorded. So I'm going to flip through and then I'll come back. Okay. So this is the first page. So 1 through 5, 6 through 9, 10 through 13, 14, 15, and more. It just keeps going. And I'm gonna go back through. So I'm just giving. Okay, so I'm gonna.
And it could be colors, it could be
Yep.
massing, it could be its relationship to another building or a public courtyard or public space or street. Any feedback on any of that would be appreciated.
So I'll go ahead and start.
Yeah, please.
So, obviously I had a little bit more time to review these than others, but I think for me, 15 was an absolute no. Right? Somebody said Helen earlier.
Yes.
But I think that was probably, I could be wrong, put in there by design as a, to throw off. And then I felt like number 1, to me, looked like kind of a residential, unit, just a standalone. And there are going to be some of that. Bob made a good point. But I feel like it's just trying too hard to kind of be this little boutique-y little single family home, but it's turned into kind of an art studio, right?
Which number was that?
1.
Okay. Can we flip to that one?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just like to see, yeah.
No,
I didn't
no,
like
no,
that one either.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really liked it too. It was kind of an industrial, it had a little bit more of an industrial look, but I do like that it's inviting. It's kind of open windows. It gives me kind of that storefront. Everyone kind of hangs out. And so if you look at those guiding principles that they kind of went over, it's like, hey, I want to be at that place. You know, it looks kind of industrial, like old school, but I can't tell if I think at some points it's been repurposed. And then like just 5, it was just kind of bland to me. It looked like a one-off kind of store. 3, I wasn't too hot about. So again, there's a lot of different things for each one of these. 3 looked to me like it's a new building that was trying to look like an old building, and it was more, I don't know.
Trying
And
too
then,
hard.
yeah. You know, the Coast building too. I liked the big grand windows. It looks approachable. So there was those are kind of the things that for me, I looked at and discussed. It wasn't necessarily, you know, I don't like the squares, or I don't like the dentals, or I don't like the roofing. It was more of what kind of gives me a better perspective of what we're looking for, or what I would be looking for if I was kind of going to this district as far as the single story retail is concerned.
Yeah.
One of them was 7. That to me, it felt like it was just the walls and stuff. Bob had mentioned that earlier with the Highway 9 corridor. It just didn't look as inviting. Like I've got to kind of step over some walls or around walls to get to it. I would rather see something more so like forward up on the street than kind of backed up a little bit. I don't mind the architecture of that, but I feel like it's got a lot going on as far as the massing is concerned. 8, I thought was a really good one too. It's just very clean, very simple, inviting, large open picture windows. Had some awnings on there that weren't permanent or weren't, you know, steel with the canvas drops on them, like kind of some of the buildings we've got over here. And then like 9, I thought was a good concept. I'd love to see, I mentioned this with like almost like a concert hall or something, a small kind of boutique venue or something that would look cool. I would probably change up the exterior, not to do kind of the metal seam or whatever that is, but that's really kind of the direction that we discussed when we were kind of looking at these things too. So I'll stop talking and let anyone else kind of chime in too. But
Yeah.
I think Ken and I have very similar tastes. So I have number 2, 6, and 9 are some of my favorites. So let's go to 2 real quick, if you don't mind. 2.
2. Yep.
Same thing. I love it because it's inviting. It engages the community. You've got the rooftop bar. You've got the patio. This would be very, very nice at a high pedestrian corridor, right?
Yeah.
That would be, I love it. I just think it's great. The large windows for retail. The next one is 6.
Yeah.
Nope, that's not it. It's one where it's got a setback where,
Let's see.
hold
Let's
on.
look through.
Go back to the first page. Maybe it's on there. I don't know where I had that. It basically, though, the roof set back. So the human scale, it was more, I liked it.
There was like a setback on the roof.
Yeah, and I liked it because I felt it was good for human scale, right? If it's going to be a taller building, I think
Well, and in
setting
number
it back is good.
21, there's a little bit of a
Yeah.
setback up there, but
Yeah. But I don't even know where it was. But anyway, so I
Yep.
think that's something we can explore.
yeah.
9, I agree. I think if it's a larger scale development, I think that's great. Even a food hall or something might be. But I think I just like that look. I like how they've got different materials. You know, they've brought some overhang in. It's still active. You know, there's a lot of outdoor seating and public areas.
Screams brewery.
Yeah, it does.
Brewery.
Okay, so least favorite.
Yeah.
Same with 15. fabric awnings are so dated, I feel. The colors are just very Hellenish. And then 4, where did I liked 4, but I feel like, see that long side? It's way too repetitive. That is
Yeah,
one where
I see,
we would want to
yep.
break that up, right?
Yep.
But beyond that, that's all I have.
Oh, that's great.
I guess I'll go.
Yeah, any other?
Okay, I have a lot of notes. So as far as, yeah, I did it, I did most of my homework. I can
That's
add.
great. No, listen.
So as far as what I really liked, I'm looking at my notes. The first one was 8.
Yeah, okay.
I just thought it had charm and it was elevated a little bit more than some of the other farmhousey. I just, it looks like it's an old building. It looked inviting. I had a note about, I like the windows. And I like the box gutters. I thought those were cute.
Yeah.
And then number 12 jumped. Was it 12? I just like this, having those like street lights that aren't the string lights. Like they're on a string, but they're like lanterns.
Yeah, it's the same idea, but
It's the
not
same idea,
ones
but
anymore,
we've
yeah.
elevated it. And I just feel like that is Milton. Like we can do things that other cities do, but we do it better. And so that was one of those things. It just caught my eye. And I'm a detail
good
girl,
call.
so
I
I'll
didn't
do
notice
the little detail. It won't be a big grand. You're better at that. And then let's see, number 18.
Yeah.
I love that. That looked like it could be next door to Milton's
Yeah.
Cuisine and Cocktail. And I just, everything about it. I liked the color. I liked that it could have been an old barn, but it's, again, not like rustic.
Mm.
And then I love the cupola. I love the weather vane. It just had charm, like oozing charm.
Yeah.
And let's see. And then as far as my nose, number 7 was my first, like, I just didn't even comment. I just said no. And really it was just because it looks so severe. And I don't know. It kind of scared me a little. So.
The irony of the welcome sign.
Well, I know there is such irony. I don't know why. It looks just, I don't know, not inviting to me.
It is.
And then, I mean, some of these I was like, they could be pretty good. I had another no. Let's see. 23. I didn't care for that one. I just thought it's too casual. It looks, I don't know, just like an old gas station. It didn't speak to me like some of the other ones. The ones that really spoke to me were where there was an outdoor gathering space. I loved the fire pit. There's 2 different ones, I think, that had just like a cool looking fire hangout gathering breakout space.
Yeah.
And I just, especially because this is commercial, I think having the say, like, the people that work for me, this is what we can offer you in this community here.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't know if we do quads, but I like inward facing ideas, maybe in different quads of some sort, so that people can work and then they can go out and they can interact and have breakout sessions that they could gather by the fire pit. I love that. That to me speaks the way Milton should speak. Community. Yeah. And just offering the extras that maybe just working down the street, you're not going to have. And I think that was it.
I like that. I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Offering the extras.
Yeah, I like all that feedback. And, remember now in the design manual, we could even incentivize developers to do just what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we could say, look, if you do, this kind of breakout, inward facing, I like that idea, right? Maybe we incentivize that somehow. We say, look, if you do that, we'll give you something in return, from a zoning standpoint.
Yeah.
So there is a way we could achieve these things by incentivizing them. So great, thanks.
And this is helpful because we are also, for some of our breakout tables, we're going to be talking about activation and landscape and sort of the typology of what's a hub, what's a plaza, what's a park, sort of thinking about it
Yes.
that way. And so you just gave me some great, I mean, we had already listed some of these elements,
Yeah.
but to start to get feedback on what types of things and places where people want to be and stay.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're hearing is it's not a place where you come and you stay. You have to go somewhere else to do that. So what would make you do that here? in
Right.
Beaufort?
And if people are working from home, what's going to get them out of their home and want to go to the office? And I think offering breakout spaces, places they can work out on
Yeah.
their lunch hour, maybe,
The amenities.
yeah, just having those things that not every single, person
Yeah.
that brings a business has to provide,
Yeah.
restaurants. That's a huge one. I love the upstairs, like open air bar.
Yeah.
So they can work and then they can kind of hang out and it doesn't close at 8:30 and
Yeah.
everybody goes home.
They redid an office park in Alpharetta, Sanctuary.
Mhm.
Park, yeah.
Yeah, and they did a lot of amenities.
Oh, I haven't
there.
seen that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's true. It's almost like people will go to Starbucks and just sit there with their laptops,
Yeah.
even though they're working from home. They get out of their house. They want to hang out in
Right.
an environment they feel is soft. And
Mm.
this is almost like creating these outdoor environments that people will want to, even if you're working from home, you're going to go downstairs. You're going to say, I'd rather
Right.
sit outside on a day like today and just work. Great feedback.
Something that I think I'm really excited about with this is for our kids too, because, Cambridge, there's Hopewell, there's Kings Ridge, there's St. Francis.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
all of these kids who walk these. And here you guys have Northwestern and Milton, and there's a lot that they can do. And I feel the Deerfield district is missing that right now.
Mm.
So I think that
That's
that
a-
is something that, anyway, I was very excited because I think that's something where my kids will benefit and just anyone in that area.
Yeah, I would say something that strikes me about Crabapple is, when I'm here in the afternoon for meetings, just the sheer volume of kids just hanging out around here
Mhm.
safely.
Mhm.
Right, safely.
Yes.
Yes, because
Yeah.
there's a ton of kids. If you
Yeah.
drive by around when school gets out, it's the same, but they don't have a lot of areas where they can just congregate, right?
Mhm.
It's very different. And so I think that it would be great to try to implement that.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
That's great feedback.
Really good.
Going next.
Any other feedback on the single story retail?
Yeah.
Can I just say 22 is an absolute no for me?
General
I
store.
agree. Yes.
I absolutely love 8. I think it's 8. If we go back. Yes. I was just
That is-
recently went to Cumming City Center for the first time, and it's
Yeah.
kind of similar to this. And I love that they had little boutiques next to there was boutique next to boutique. So you could just walk and mosey in and check it out and then go to the next one and kind of spend the afternoon just either window shopping or just
Meandering.
shopping.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that.
One thing I noticed is you see there's a resident in the background.
Mm,
Mm.
So it's right there. So it's like that, you
Mhm.
got a house and then you've got, stores.
yeah.
Interesting.
And I agree with everyone else about number 2. And I feel like number 2 kind of, to me, would be more of a Deerfield feeling because it looks like an old warehouse or something, like a corporate, vibe to it where it's blue collar, kind of, they go there to gather.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like the silos, but I'm a Joanna Gaines fan, so.
I was like, when I saw that, I was like,
Yeah, can we do that to all the cards in the area?
So 20 is Serenbe, and I think also the general store. I think
Mhm.
that's the general store, which I do love.
Mhm.
That's where I got married, and it's
Yeah.
Aw.
one of my favorite places. But
Yeah.
there's not much that they have done that I don't think is just perfection. But this would be more of like a live, work, play type
Yes.
thing, mixed use.
Yep.
Not single.
Mm-hmm.
Serenbe is extremely successful.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. We love it.
Come.
Any other? Okay, so I'm going to skip a section and we'll come back to it. I'm not skipping townhouses entirely, but I would really love, because I think the most difficult portion of this for the community and for the feedback that we need from you all and the planning board and the city council is going to be how the mixed use buildings look and feel. So I'm going to jump ahead to that. And again, there's lots here we know that are not good and not Milton. And what I will say also is that, and as we've been looking for these, not a lot of, it's hard to find extraordinarily high quality buildings that are the same architectural style of Milton. So I want you to think about, okay, I don't like this style, but I like this quality. Because I think there just aren't that many places that have the same style and the same level of quality in the same vein that Milton would be. So that's my preface for this section. So I'm going to flip through really quickly. And again, because we've been through this, I sort of already know probably what you're going to love and what you're not. I'm going to say 52, starting at 52, these are a particular type of construction type called mass timber. And so they're a unique structural type and probably lend themselves to a more, not a typical developer building, but maybe a jewel box building, a centerpiece building in a location in Deerfield. So, and that really goes for through 66.
And they could be buildings or pavilions.
Yes.
Or
Yep.
a gathering place. Maybe it's a building where people just gather and people can sit around with their laptops, have little gas fireplaces running. Just like that type of building would be a heavy timber style building.
Mm-hmm.
Give very natural look to it.
Okay. So I'm going to open the floor up for.
But I will tell you, these are very different because you can see that the height is becoming the challenge, right? We're not used to having 4, 5, 6, 8-story architecture in Milton. And I don't want anybody to say Bob's advocating for 8-story architecture. I don't think it will ever happen. I think if we were to go to 3, 4, potentially 5-story would be the max.
So are we thinking about having a maximum height, like a maximum story?
Yeah, right now, I mean, you can go up to, in some areas of Deerfield, you can go up to 10, 12 stories. Some are 16 stories. I mean, that's what the zoning allows because they were trying to induce really corporate architecture. Now that we're doing mixed use, I think we need to change that zoning a little bit because, we certainly don't want retail or housing to be 16-story high.
Right.
So we got, but when you look at these photos, look at the heights as well, and the walls, and the character of the walls, and because there's a lot of stuff that I think if you don't like it, let me know too, because it's just as important to say we just don't like this than it is to say we do like it.
But starting at 45.
Yeah.
Since I've seen these before, I'll start off.
Yeah, you go ahead, kid.
Yeah.
I have to be rude and duck out of here, so I'm gonna try to run this one.
Yeah.
I like 45, 49, 51, 50.
Okay, 45, right?
45, 49, 50, and 51. I think 51 looks very similar to Village Park over there by Wills Park, which they do great work over there.
The senior living, yeah.
Yeah, the Village Park community. I'm not opposed of the ones that start at 61 to 68, just to put something completely different in a different area that once you get into that area, you still know with the big beams, you still understand you're in Milton with those beams that kind of provide that aesthetic feel, but it also gives you a completely different look and a completely different corridor from Milton altogether from a mixed use, and it
Yeah.
kind of could blend in with something that's coming in on Windward, the continuing development. So I'm not opposed from 60 through 69, but I think the first three, I think 45, 49, 51, and even 50 are probably pretty close to what I would think.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Just
just
'cause
want
they're
to, I
lower.
want to remind the board that currently mixed use is allowed. It is a use permit, which means it has to go in front of council. But you have to have what they call vertically integrated mixed use, which means the ground floor has to be retail up and then units above. So that's the way it works. So when you're looking at some of these pictures, some developers came in and said, we don't want to do vertical integration because we just want to do housing and then sell it to, a REIT or somebody who would maintain it and operate it. Other developers have come in and said, yeah, we would do vertically integrated, which means we would do ground floor. So like if you were to go to Avalon, the ground floor, it is vertically integrated. I mean, you're shopping on that lower plane and enjoying the day, going to, you don't even realize that there's housing above. A lot of people don't even look up to see what's really above them. They're just enjoying that lower level plane. So when you look at these pictures, you could, if you want, note on both of that retail plane and the upper housing plane. Sometimes it's very common also to do like outside balconies and sometimes they just punch them like in a very symmetry or repetitive fashion. You just see balconies, right? every unit. And some of them are set in, they're eroded into and carved into the building mass. And some of them are like metal decks that they pop onto the exterior, kind of applied to the exterior of the facade. So like if you were to look at some of those, and again, in Avalon, you'd see some are deep into the building. So the building looks kind of flat, but it has those voids. And some buildings you'll see here, it's actually protruding out.
All right, I have to.
No, thank you
Okay.
for your feedback. Yep.
We'll see you on next one.
So I'll piggyback off that. So 45, I really like that one. And what I liked about it was good tones, and good material collaboration. I think when we had our meeting on Friday, it was that big kind of masting of the like cupola or whatever it is on the front could probably have been toned down a little bit. But for the most part, the mix of materials and colors and tones, I really liked. 46 was just awful because the designer and that was the one you guys did, right?
No, we didn't do that one.
Oh, I thought that's the only reason I said that.
I
sorry.
didn't even catch it.
I thought you said you guys designed that.
No, we did. Let's see. There's one. So for 67.
Okay. Yeah, my bad then. 48 was a no.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like that's just flat. There's not much definition to it, and the white on black is just not a mixing there. And then I liked number 51 because I felt like it was a good tie of residential and commercial together.
Do you like the kind of curve at the, it's not like four corners? It's kind of got.
Yeah, I do. I
What do you
think,
of that?
Depth and dimension.
yes,
to it.
correct. It's not a ton of windows, but at the same time, it's got a good color scheme, good, depth to it. There's balconies, but then there's flat, and then there's different pitches in the roofs and different materials on the exterior.
And you can see the ground floor is a much higher.
That's correct. Yeah.
Floor to floor height than the upper floors, right? So the retail's probably 16, 18, 21 foot.
Right.
And then the other ones are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, a retail floor is typically
So our
20
51
foot
is different.
high, and then residential is about
Oh.
11
Two different
feet
buildings.
floor to floor.
Yeah. Sorry. Our 51 is different.
Yeah, mine are numbered differently
Yeah.
here than they are here.
I think we're-
I didn't want to say anything, Bob, but I'm like, where's he talking about rounded here?
Interesting.
Can you
Oh.
go back a page to 40?
Strange.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
All
so
the
like on
numbers
this
are
one,
off.
46
So we've been
is,
running numbers and they were all off. We better get
I
your.
was like, 46
we
isn't that
gotta
bad
get your
here,
math.
but here it's terrible.
I have
Okay, I'm
42
sorry.
Make sure you get
again,
Yeah.
That's
Because
51.
Okay,
otherwise the
okay.
numbers are
Well,
all
yeah.
off. We're talking about numbers.
all right, so
It's
we're off on the
51.
numbers, but yeah, so 46 is a no. Right, I feel like it's,
Yeah.
for me, it's a different style. It's
This
just,
is 46.
yes, this
Yeah.
46, yes.
I
Yeah.
think it was 42 maybe that we're talking about.
42 is 51.
Yeah, 42 is one I was talking about.
Okay.
Ah, interesting.
42.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like 42.
Yeah, then go up
Yeah.
one more.
That's on my list.
That's
Up
really
one
good.
more.
I was
Yeah,
like,
so 37, isn't that the one you guys designed or no?
Yes.
Okay, so then, yeah, that's where I was saying 46. And,
Okay, gotcha, gotcha.
So
Yes.
39 is it? Yeah, so yeah.
39 was in there.
And one of the things we talked about with 39 is that this is where we talked about, is there an A facade and
Yes.
a B facade? And is there a place, and not to say 39 specifically, but but 39 is facing an interior courtyard.
Mhm.
And so is there a priority given so that the developers can spend more money on the public, on an A facade, and the B facades can be a little plainer, a little quieter?
That's where Bob was talking about like incentivizing, right? Because if you have something that's from the street view that has a lot of these architectural guidelines, but then you want to do a building like inside of that you're never going to see from the outside. What I like about that is it creates two different price points as well. So then you're obviously with all these architectural details, it's going to be that much more cost prohibitive to build. But then if you are incentivized to put more into the streetscape that you see from the outside, and we can reduce the kind of elements on the interior buildings that you never see, that will help the developer do more on the exterior and then give them price points to where we also can attract two different price points, I guess, right? So yeah, the interior of that, I actually would not mind that, to be honest with you, if I didn't have to see it from the exterior. But just from the perspective of looking from the exterior, from a street view, I would say that wouldn't be something that I would want to see.
I like the little putt-putt in 39 too. Like you could go out with a couple friends and just like
Yeah.
Mhm.
mhm.
putt-putt in your backyard.
Yeah, like I think this is
Communal.
the inner focus,
Mhm.
right? This is not the outward focus of the building.
And this is where in the design guidelines, we would put something for streetscape would have a different
Yes.
Correct.
criteria than.
Yeah. You would prioritize the facades because if you think about, and I'm blanking on the name of the development we were talking about in Sandy Springs.
Aria.
Aria.
Mhm.
So if you look at Aria, the sides and the back are not to the same, they're not designed to the same level. The materials are a little bit plainer. I wouldn't say low quality, but plainer, because that enables the developer to spend more money on the front facade and put their money where it really counts. And the side that's facing an alley is not gonna.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
To save a little bit of money.
Yeah. Yes, but hopefully, yes. I think some
Yes.
people go a little too far with that. But this, it's not getting away from high quality. It may just be getting away from sort of the
Level of detail.
level of detail. That's right.
Mhm. I don't know what number it is on
I'm sorry.
your side, but it's 71. I think if you go a couple, sorry,
Keep going.
going, it's after these ones.
Okay.
Right there. Sorry, go back.
Yep.
One more. 62.
Yeah.
This doesn't necessarily look mixed use to me,
Mhm.
but I do like the look of this. And I
Mhm.
think it goes back to what Samuel was saying about possible addition of like a food hall,
Mhm.
especially if it's going to be in any sort of corporate environment
Yep.
where people, you have a meeting at 1, you've got to go out, grab a salad, eat real fast, come back. You may not have sit down lunch
Mhm.
time. But this to me looks more, we've been in a bunch of different places where they have like the food on the outside.
Yep.
You can go with a large group. We usually go on baseball trips because the kids can all find what they want, and then everybody sits in the middle and eats, something
So-
like that.
For reference, 53, the side building here where that is the interior of this building here, and then you have this courtyard. At the back is a brewery.
that.
This is actually, just for reference, this is right across the street from the entrance gate to Auburn University,
Oh.
and it's the Auburn Culinary Institute. And so you've got 3 stories of hotel football condo on top of 3 stories of classroom with a food hall and brewery, and it's all teaching the culinary arts to students.
cool.
So, but just to kind of reference, this is sort of that food hall and kind of that office commercial use environment.
Sure.
Right.
That's definitely new since I went to Auburn.
Yeah, it
That was not there
opened
too.
last year. And on top, they like grow. I mean, it's all the things that. So you can go to eat here. But yes, and it does open up onto a plaza, and it's mass timber. That's part of the difference.
Yeah, I like the wood and the different materials in 60. I like the feel of that building.
Mm-hmm.
What did we say 51 was on theirs? 42?
42.
42 is my favorite,
Mhm.
followed by that one at Auburn. Just, it feels like it's home.
Mm.
Like it doesn't feel like an office park. It feels also like home.
And that's a 3-story?
It
Yes,
is
it
3
looks-
stories.
yeah,
Yep.
3.
It is.
Three-story.
It's just a 3-story residential building, and I think this is one where Bob was referencing, instead of having balconies extend out beyond the exterior wall, they
Recess them in, yeah.
They are
Mhm.
recessed in.
Like a code.
I think Avalon has
little
done a
room.
good job of that in that property in between Avalon. I guess it isn't even Avalon, but Avalon. And then when you're leaving Avalon, they have like those really nice places, and they have the recessed patios that are
Yeah.
really nice.
The townhomes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what number this is, but it's my 57, but it had like I don't know if it was a restaurant on the bottom, and it was a tall building, it was set back, and it had like a rooftop garden.
I saw
That's
that
the,
one too.
I have 48.
48,
48.
okay, on this one.
Check 48. That one?
Yes.
This one.
Yes.
Yep.
So I like this, if we were thinking about, to me, that looks like a boutique hotel.
Yeah.
And I like the idea
Mhm.
of that, if that was something that, we were wanting to explore. I just felt like you could do something on the bottom that it just breaks it up and doesn't look like this big, tall structure to me. And I just thought it was charming. I liked the color use. I liked having the garden on the top. I just think that was interesting. It's different.
I would say the only thing about that I didn't care for was the rooftop with the little rounded dormers.
Yeah.
I think that
roof
is
line.
super charming, but it's not Milton.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more like French.
Yes,
period
Yeah,
style.
yeah. It looks very,
But it's a
French
stark
chateau,
contrast
which is my
to number
favorite.
49, right? Complete different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we are trying to encourage boutique hotels.
Yeah.
Thanks.
all right.
Now, can you sit out on that? Because that would be really cool to be able to sit out on that rooftop garden.
I don't
Yeah.
know if the,
I think they had railings or
Well, yeah, if
something,
they
but
had railings.
like,
I mean, right now, let's say you fall off, but.
But if it was.
It might be a
Yeah.
better
Next to
use.
be a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Eating
think-
area.
And that's so one of the things that we are seeing. So retail today, now we know we're doing a 30-year plan, but as we think about this, and you've talked a lot about food and beverage. So retail today is there's very little new retail in anything but food and beverage and what we call entertainment retail. And entertainment retail, I'll tease Bob, but this is not, but it's Pickle and Chicken. It's the putt place.
Pet Shack.
Yes.
And Interlock.
Yes. Now it is also things like the axe throwing, but I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
the axe throwing is where we'll be going. but that gives you an idea. Right now, that's where the retail market is. And part of the food and beverage is also that rooftop dining. Anything that they can do to have an indoor outdoor feel. I mean, you just heard it tonight with the Milton restaurant. So you'll see a lot of that. And I think that is something that we are sensing, is that the need for food and beverage, or the desire for food and beverage. I won't say need, because I don't know the market, but I will say desire for more.
When you're walking through, you see all those people that are like, hey, I want to eat up there.
Well, I mean, if you go to Nashville, I mean, the whole street, Lower Broadway, is just bar
Yeah.
after bar, and it's all rooftop bars.
Yes.
And every single one of them is packed. I mean, we don't want to bring,
Riff-raff.
we don't want to bring that vibe here with all the, bachelorette parties and et cetera. But I mean, sitting outside, especially in a climate we live in, where, I mean, 99% of the time you can sit outside. I think it draws people. Like you said, you see people sitting out there having a good time. You're like, hey, I want to go check that out.
Yeah.
I think if you go to Avalon or downtown Alpharetta, you'll see that.
Mhm.
And
Downtown
we have to
Roswell.
create
Yeah,
that
downtown
here.
Roswell.
Well, what it does too is it also, by having the capability of having a rooftop or having an outdoor eating area or gathering area, I think that's something that we could look at as incentivize. You don't have to have as many tables inside. And what that does too is then that reduces the size of the building. So then it also reduces the cost for the developer as well, so they can utilize outdoor space. But the slippery slope on that is that when it is not good weather,
Right.
they're wanting to put the, steel framed kind of canopies
Yeah.
with the plastic
Plastic.
sides and stuff. So there's a good balance. But if there's enough of them, then I feel like then there's a choice, or there's areas to go to instead of just one place to go eat, right? So.
Well, I think another thing I'd like to see with restaurants too is, I traveled to Europe this summer, and there was a lot of, like, they would roll up the whole storefront, like the restaurant front. And so it was
Yeah.
like indoor, outdoor were together.
Now, one of these
Uh,
had that. We
I
just
think
did a
it's
development
this
in
number
Charleston.
9, I think.
No, there was another one.
Was there
even.
another
I
one?
think there was
Yeah.
another one where it
It was
was
very similar to.
We,
Oh,
we
no,
tried to do a little of that one, like the nest.
there.
down
Go
the
back.
block.
Go back.
Did I miss
You know,
it?
they have
19.
the, you're
Yeah,
talking about
19,
you could
yeah.
roll
the
up.
overhead garage doors that kind of roll up.
It's nice when
Or
they have them
window
open.
Because it doesn't make you feel excluded from what's happening inside. And,
Yeah.
and then the people inside also still get the fresh air and.
Yeah.
We did something like that, and it's under construction right now, but in Charleston, and we were like, it brings the, it's extension of the outdoor, it's extension of the indoor. I like that, and Pure does that, don't they?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think Pure does
Mhm.
that. All of this, it's like you almost have to have a context, though, right? I mean, like that wouldn't go well with some of the other designs we were talking about, or
Would it,
so.
would it be helpful with, just keeping time in mind? Would it be helpful if because like even since we talked on
Yeah.
Friday, I've just taken, now my numbers are different.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know what.
I just took it and saved it, and it just kind of made notes on a lot of
Yes.
these. Would it be helpful if we kind of did that? I mean, I know we discussed a good bit of that
Yeah.
already, but maybe just did, emailed over just kind of this breakdown with just some notes or something like that. Or even like if we just got, because I have,
If you
scratch
just-
notes as well.
Yeah, we
Um,
are pretty good at reading scratch
Yeah.
notes. So if you want to scan it as is, or just take a picture of it and email it,
Mhm.
that would be amazing. And what we're doing is we are cataloging every comment. Was showing Bob earlier, like even the public comments. We put them in Excel, we query them, and we keep track. So we have keywords, and we're doing the same for this as well. So that, again, I think it just helps all of you be able to understand how we got to the end product, and you can understand how you can also defend the decision-making process.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
we
I
don't,
think it's comforting because.
we don't have to go through them all tonight. I mean, we
No.
can come
Well, no,
back,
just,
we
you
can come
know,
back next month and show you like an example of a design manual. Because I'd like to show you like sort of what an end result looks like so that it's kind of nice to know where we're leading
mhm.
to look
Yeah.
at this. And
But
we
even
can do
like,
this every month
you
just
could
for a
send us
half
away
hour
with some
for a shorter
homework,
period.
right?
Yeah.
And then, because I feel like there is a lot, but I feel like if we just kind of like what we're doing, but we can go through a little bit more detail on each one.
100%. That would be.
But what's comforting is I feel like there's a little bit of a consensus, which is
Yeah, I
good.
agree.
So I
Yeah.
think that's going to make it easier.
Well,
But,
and I 100%, and I'm also seeing a lot of, these aren't devoid or isolated without activation. So that's been really helpful too. So
yeah,
helpful.
okay.
yeah. And so, and I know, and you'll see this, there's townhomes in here, mixed use buildings, and we did include specific boutique hotel examples as well. Because the other thing that we heard, the typical select service hotel, which is a market for, but maybe establishing and seeing redevelopment will create a market for a boutique hotel that reflects.
Because we talked in the Zoom call that the Hamilton bankrupt.
Yeah, bankrupt.
No, did
Yeah.
it really?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
then
Someone else
bought by another
For
company.
like fraction of the. I mean,
Recently?
it was
Yeah, well, so it-
ridiculous. Yeah.
Bankrupt or foreclosed, and then the guy came in or new company came in, bought it for
I mean, like
pennies on the
$2 million
dollar.
dollars or something.
Wow.
And so I don't know if that had to do with just its location, it's how it was run, or
I
what
think it was a missed opportunity. I think their market did not care for what they did.
Mm.
There was so much hype and excitement around it, and you go in and it's like, that was like floor and decor tile, and it was so disappointing. It was a missed opportunity. And
I feel like Roaring Social was always like the talk of the town, and
Yeah.
everybody was going there. And then all of a sudden, I heard the hotel went bankrupt. And I
yeah,
was just
and that
shocked.
it's like, yeah, that's
And
unfortunate.
some of it also has to do the time at which they were given their loan.
Yeah.
So it could be successful, but the cost of their debt. And so that's the other thing with all of this is that like the capital markets right now are, and this is going to be our tension. Capital markets are supporting certain types of uses. And that is oftentimes in conflict with the vision for where cities and places want to go to do placemaking. So it's a very delicate I mean, I think you all probably know this, but capital markets right now are extraordinarily different and interesting and how and what's working and what's not. They were all gung-ho on multifamily residential, and then it just stopped. Except for luxury residential or workforce housing, like the two ends. And retail is very fickle. So it's
going to be changing. It's
and we don't know, and I don't think anybody really understands where the market is going.
Right.
Sure.
so
The good part about it
comments.
is we can offer our feedback and opinions on the kind of design and stuff that should someone want to come in and do this.
Sure.
These are essentially the kind of guidelines that we would like to see for them to do that, that kind of aspect. So.
Yeah.
So if we're going to send you comments, when would you need them by? Ideally.
Tonight?
So there's a couple of things. Yes, not tonight necessarily, but you can send them. Oh, sorry, that's probably my husband's. Are you gonna have for bedtime?
The same question.
There's the element of what we want to show the community on the 17th, which I think I have a very good idea for that, and then there's how we catalog it moving forward. So I think there's an element if you want to send us some quick comments, but also kind of sit on it and think about it and reflect. we are going to be developing these urban design guidelines over the next couple of months, right? Like we're already started, we're already kind of getting our teeth around that. So there's both, right?
Yeah.
Like if you got quick comments, that'll be helpful for us as we move towards the 17th, but thoughtful comments, and you guys have already given us a lot of great ones, but
And I think we seem to be mainly in agreement.
yeah.
Yeah, we're very cohesive
Yep.
most of the time.
So maybe if we can try to get back to them, favorite one, least favorite one, maybe why on both of those, and then anything that we would, if there's something that we don't see out of the 30, there's a lot in there. So, but
Yeah,
what
if
we
there's
would like to see, and I think if we could do that, that would help them. And then if you're available too on the 17th, I'm going to be there for at least an
Yep.
hour or so.
I'm gonna try to go. Can we
I'd
bring
love
kids?
to.
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
and have them
Yeah.
do the activities too, because we're going to do this something similar for landscape. We're going to talk a little bit about transportation trails. How do you want to get to Deerfield? We're going to talk about yeah, we're gonna kind of delve into a lot of things, and it'll be just different table activities. So kids, and usually kids.
And we
have fun.
also have that 2 boards with those 2 questions, something that kids will put some
Yes.
Post-it notes, answer those questions.
Yeah. So we're going to have a board for the guiding principles. What's your top 3 guiding principles? Put a dot where you live, all things that we can have.
I have 2 kids at practice, but I might bring my 10-year-old.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna bring my 8-year-old.
I just looked at the practice.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. It's a lot, right? So
No,
It is a lot.
it
but
is a
we got
lot.
great
We knew it
feedback.
was a lot. So definitely.
and I got a jump start. So, but I do have a lot, so I'll send mine over to you.
Yeah, that's great. And
Okay.
apologize for the numbering. I don't know.
What I was going to say, maybe it's just the deck that we were sent.
I don't
So-
know. This was sort of the same deck, but maybe someone thought,
Maybe.
oh, I need to delete this picture and let me change all the numbers and
Yeah. And totally
or added
confuse us.
something.
Yeah.
Which is why you.
And I
Okay.
didn't notice, but thank you.
Mine's
I don't know if we want to anything else.
That's
we need to
perfect. I
add.
want to thank everybody.
This is
Yeah. Thank you guys. But
I think
very
it's awesome.
helpful. I really appreciate this.
Really great.
Oh, and the other thing, if you guys have any ideas, and you can send this to Jackie, we're also, I know Bob mentioned this, but we're talking with folks to how to engage younger folks. So if you have any thoughts on that, let us know. Even with your kids.
What is younger? I mean, what age?
So I think that
That's bigger.
we're gonna kind of get into the kids who grew up here and are maybe in young adulthood and don't feel
Okay.
like Milton's a cool enough place to live in. But I do find I love it when you guys bring your kids to these workshops, because I find that they really have some of the best ideas that everybody kind of gravitate around, because they have a different way of communicating
Mhm.
what they want to see. And I think it's a little less controversial, right? Like they can express an idea in a way that people from all different stripes gravitate towards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's good because they learn the process of how government functions and how Milton becomes Milton, and they feel like they're part of Milton growing up, and they connect to the community much more. There's just so many pluses of
I think they also too is they want kind of that city feel, right? So if we kind of creating that on a smaller
Yeah.
scale, and they can get that. I think the other thing is too is this pricing, right? I mean, a lot of people move into into the city, the Brookhaven, Buckhead, all that stuff, but there's so many apartments and old stuff where they can get relatively inexpensive. Don't really see much of that around Milton.
Not here.
Yeah,
So
it's a
Well,
challenge.
it,
We
it-
want it to be expensive and
yeah,
upscale,
and
better way of
younger
life.
generations are putting off buying and paying a lot more in rent than we would have ever considered doing.
Oh my goodness, so true.
but yeah.
Thank you all.
All right,
Thank you so much,
thanks.
Allison. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it.
Oh,
Wait,
wait,
hold on,
oh,
guys.
wait.
We gotta.
Wait,
Oh, yeah, we gotta
Yeah, sorry. Thank y'all so much. They get to leave. We gotta finish. All right, so.
And I'm so glad you keep us in.
I know. I'm like, bye.
9A, old business.
We have no old business.
We have no business. Great. 10, can I call a motion for adjournment?
I will make an emotion for adjournment of this meeting.
I second.
All right, so motion from Ms. Gagné, a second from Ms. Coker.
Coker?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.